We've been looking forward to
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. Yeah, I was telling Chip, I was like, there's not two better guys I'd wake up this side of 6 a.m. for. So
Wake up
happy to
next
be.
to.
Yeah, waking up next to, I guess, would be the only better outcome than I had this morning. But yeah, good to be here, man. Good to be here for sure.
Well, dude, if this thing takes off, maybe next episode, next time we have you on,
We'll be in the studio.
yeah, we'll wake up in the studio.
Yeah, I'd like to play the role of like the tertiary guy, like off camera, but I get on every now and again.
Hell
You
yeah.
know, just to add like 3 or 4 sentences.
Yeah, we
That's
need.
it though.
If there's a heavy topic or something, and we need to get your opinion on it. Then the camera pans over, and you're just like eating a foot-long sub sandwich. All right, we'll come back to Chuck later. But dude, let's just we've just been starting from the top. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know where you want to begin. I think back my earliest memories with Indian old school, and I can't say I really knew. I don't know the first time that me and you met. I think, Chuck. I think you just grow up. Everyone kind of meets up at the park or is
Yeah.
playing on the playground, and I can't say I have like a specific moment when we met each other. But that's how it goes as kids. We probably beat up a less fortunate kid together on the playground, or something like that, and then over time, we just became closer buddies. But
Yeah.
for me, dude, I was like a block away from Indian Old School, and so I could just walk home or ride my bike down that prairie path. But I know you guys came in on the buses, all the
Oh
Winfield
yeah.
boys.
Yeah, we were the bus kids. We were down probably we were only a handful of blocks away, and we would take our bikes to school on the prayer path too. But yeah, we were the bus crew, you know. We had a lot of adventures on that bus, we'd be throwing stuff out the window, tying action figures to strings and letting them, kind of bounce behind the bus. And
Yeah,
we're
dude.
we were getting a lot of warnings, which usually a warning supersedes a consequence or precedes a consequence. And I don't know, we never seemed to get one for that. But yeah, we were a short drive away. I don't remember the exact time we met either. I think in elementary school, it could have been at the bottom of like a Fumblerooski pile or something like that. But you
Yeah.
kind of all grow up together. I feel like, especially where we were at, we had like a park we called Little Park, Chartwell Park. Shout out Chartwell Park. A lot of good times there. But
Yeah.
it was kind of just a meeting place for kids, and we all stayed pretty close. I think even when you're not like super tight friends, you're all there together at some point. And you have your little district, your little teams. But yeah,
Yeah.
I know we go way back, but I feel like you and I just talked about this on the phone a couple days ago. But like, it was funny how Xbox and probably COVID and being quarantined in and kind of having to lock into like Xbox Live kind of brought this thing full circle. But
Yeah.
yeah, happy it did for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because you guys, Dave was telling me that you guys are deep in the Apex too. You guys are getting after it on that shit. And that game's kind of fell off now. But yeah, we met on Xbox. That was the first time we talked until I came
Yeah.
down there that one time and we tied one off. That was a good time too. We'll have to circle back to that story.
I was going to say, yeah, we're going to get there, I'm sure, because anytime you lay a couple tracks down in a garage after, I think it was like Black Wednesday, the night before
yeah.
Thanksgiving, something like that.
Mhm.
Anytime you lay down on the ones and twos together, that brings you close too.
Yeah. That's the exact night my mom told me the infamous words, "You're no son of mine." I was thrown up in the bushes Thanksgiving morning, and she was worried the neighbors were going to see it.
Yeah, I got a video of that. If I still have it somewhere in the stash, I'll post
I said,
it.
"Let him watch. Let him watch."
Yeah.
But dude, and you were a couple years older than me. So
Yeah.
I'm 93 years old. No, I was born in 93. What were you? 91 or 90?
I'm actually 92. I'm super
92?
young for I'm July 31st birthday, so I'm super young
Oh,
for my age, but or for my school year, but 92.
yeah.
Um,
And I think that's part of why, we don't. It's not like we had a class together or anything like that. Like the interactions we would have had early on is really, like you said, going to those parks. Like I'd ride my bike to Winfield. The park, it would be one day we're all playing baseball or something, and the next day we're all like drinking a bottle of wine that we stole from our parents. The park had many uses for many different chapters of life, and I
That
yeah,
had to
might go
be
back there next time I'm in town. I might go back there and see what the next chapter of the park looks like.
that had to be pretty cool. You guys said you could ride your bikes to school and around, and that was like way different from where I grew up, which is out here. It's so country. You have to drive most places, but
Hmm.
that must have been a pretty cool experience. You're like riding the trail or something to school, and you meet up with a couple buddies along the way or something like that. That had to be
yeah.
Yeah,
fun, man.
a
I
lot of
feel like
mischief.
it did create a lot of mischief because you could get
Right?
anywhere fast, but
Yeah, all these backwoods trails.
yeah. Although I
Yeah,
guess you had a little more. You probably had the earth at your disposal for hiding spots, but yeah, we made do. We had the park, we had the forest preserve. We found our pockets for fun, but it felt like the world was super small back then. Like
yeah.
the whole thing was bikeable. Um,
Yeah.
All it
School, the
was,
park, Tony Steamers, whatever it might be, all the baseball fields and places we kicked it. It was all bikeable, so that made it easy.
Is
it
Tony
was,
Steamers the hot dog joint?
yeah,
Yeah, I ate there. That place is fire. I remember eating there when I
yeah.
Yeah.
popped over.
Uh, that's a local favorite, and right now we got some people on our team working on reaching out to Tony.
Yeah.
Now that he retired, I don't know how many years. We'll say probably 30 years or so. He's had that um, hot dog shop,
Yeah.
local favorite, and he decided to hang up the apron for good. So that'd be cool to talk to him and
That
get the
would
ins and outs of the
That
hot
would be
that
dog
would be
sick.
business.
cool, man. That would be cool. He's been a legend in our life for so long. We were I always think back to like Seinfeld, right? Like Seinfeld, it's always the shot of the restaurant, right? It's like the corner diner. They're always going in
Yeah.
there getting Reubens and whatever it might be. But like
Hmm.
our version of that was Tony Steamers and a hot dog special. So that we had a lot of meeting grounds. We were kind of operating like a little business of morons.
That's
But we just had our
awesome.
meeting spots. Yeah.
Yeah, and no cell phones, so like I would be coming, I have a 15-minute bike ride or whatever to get there, and you don't know where everyone is right away. Like you go check someone's house, and they say, "Oh, I haven't seen my son in weeks," and that's a different problem. But then you just go and like you'd see a bunch of bikes outside Tony Steamer's hot dog shop, and you're like, "Oh hell yeah!" He's probably the boys are all over here, or other places too.
Yeah. That was kind of the routine, right? In the morning, I'd wake up, I'd probably get like my one phone call off. My buddy John lived across the street. I'd get that phone call off, you know, hey, he's sleeping in. All right, great. He's out. I'm gonna get on my bike, or he's in. We're both gonna get on our bikes, and you kind of just made your way to the park. It was like if the park was like a theoretical cell phone, if you will. It was like you'd get
Hmm.
there,
That's
kind of wait,
Facebook.
Yeah, make
yeah,
plans from there.
make the plans from there, see what bikes were stacked up, or our buddy Joey obviously lived with his backyard to the park, so that was another place to check.
Yeah,
But like
he has the best. He
That
had the
must have been the
best.
spot.
we made it
Oh
You
work
could
yeah.
just
though.
walk right
We
out
made
to
it
the
work.
park.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. They're and that yeah they had the best setup because he could just peek out the window
Right.
and decide if does he going to crawl back under the covers or is he going to go play something.
Yeah, and I know like Dave obviously lived in a neighborhood, down the Prairie Path or like down Geneva Road, but
Hmm.
John and I were like the two that lived we were all in this single neighborhood, but John and I were the two outliers. Most of the kids lived around Chartwell Park and such. So we were taking a flyer, man. We had no cell phone. We had no way to contact friends or family. All you had was your bike, and you trusted the day, and you figured out,
It was a time, man.
what you had to do.
It was an incredible time.
I mean, I
It
think
was.
that's a way better way to grow up than what you see sometimes nowadays, where people go and hang out and then they're on their phone. It's like there's so much good comes from the phone, but all of that probably wouldn't have been possible or wouldn't have happened with the phones, or it'd have been a different story on how it all worked out. But
dude, it's very accurate. When I was working briefly, doing personal training with athletes and stuff like that, like youth athletes, and these football players would come in to do their workouts, and then like between sets, they'd be like sitting there like on their phone scrolling. And I think back to like me and my buddy Jim. Oh, you guys know Jim, but me and Jim were just talking about it the other day. How like we would go to like that was almost like a hangout for us. Would be like everyone meet at the gym, get a workout in together, and all you had was like an iPod or something. You could listen to music, but we couldn't like just sit there between sets and like be on Snapchat and stuff.
Right,
like,
you're shooting the shit in between sets, catching up.
Yeah,
it's more of a social thing than what it is now.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was. We'd go to the gym for like 2 hours and just like hang like, and then go get food after that. It was a whole ordeal,
Yeah. I'm wearing a sweatshirt timely for this. This is a buddy of mine, Kevin Owens, who has a company called Call Your Friends. It's sick, but right on the wrist here it says "Be where your feet are."
Oh, I like that.
It's pretty cool, right? I feel like it was a good extra tagline. I already liked like the header title for the company, but that's kind of what life gave us at that time, right? It's not like we had a choice, right? If we had a choice of a cell phone, I'm sure all of us might have been
right.
Oh, we
rocking that cell phone. So it's not all out of the the graciousness of ourselves, but
right. It wasn't by choice. It was, but I'm kind of glad we didn't have a choice because, like you said, dude, we would have been hooked too. Like I'm hooked on it right now as an adult. Like I go in the bathroom, with something should be like a 3-minute procedure. I'm in there for 30 minutes. And
I did
into what I'm doing during that time, but
I did a 25-minute. I call it a meditation if it gets that long. I did a 25-minute meditation this morning. Yeah.
There's only two things that cause that: either the cell phone or a bomb Mexican dish.
Yeah.
So talk to us.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your
chimichanga.
family.
Yeah. Well, my last thing actually, it's a good segue because I've been spending a ton of time with my pop too. But we were watching we're watching the World Series, and in Game 1, it didn't happen in Game 2, but in Game 1, there was a gentleman sitting directly behind, like obviously the broadcast view is pitcher, catcher, batter, obviously, but the guy's in like the first row, like the prime time, box suite tickets, like right behind home plate. And the guy's on his phone the entire game. I'm like, this is the World Series. And not just the World Series. You're seeing like, it's the Dodgers, Yankees. Baseball's starting to make a little comeback. They're duking it out all day. The game's going back and forth in terms of like momentum and such. And this guy's locked into his phone, like so much so that I had like multiple friends in our group chats were like, anyone get a look at this fucking guy on his cell phone? They're like, I wish we could get a bullhorn in his ear.
Yeah. It's kind of like the same thing too. Like, you go to like concerts or something like that. The people that record the whole time and they're watching it through their phone. And I'm like, I'll take a couple seconds just to, for the memory of one of the songs I like or something like that. But there's some people that are on it the whole time. And it's like, at that point, watch the concert from your phone. I mean, it's like, what is the cause? I mean, you're just wasting the experience. That's why that quote, "Be where your feet are." I do like that because it does. I mean, and I think cell phones are the number one cause of people not doing that these days. There's just it's built for your time.
Yeah.
No, I think give us. We'll talk after this. We'll put a link down in the description for your buddy's Is it a full clothing line or just hoodie? Like, I kind of
Yeah,
want
that'd
one
be
of
dope.
those.
I
Man.
do too, man.
It's dude, they're sick. First of all, they're like super. They're like a. It's more like a heavy, like canvasy type of material.
Yeah, it looks
Um,
comfortable.
super comfy, but it's like it's thick. It's like a more of like an outdoor sweater, if you will. But you know, he's
Perfect
not
time of year for it.
perfect time of year for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good brand with a good message. But I actually don't know the guy well. I call him my friend now because we've become acquaintances. But
Mm-hmm.
I only met him walking into his store. So he's in like he's in like Bucktown, Wicker Park area on Milwaukee
Oh, yeah.
Street. Yeah, yes, sir. I know. I saw you walk in with the Lottie's head. Gave me PTSD from that night.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think I left my feet in that bar.
yeah. We were definitely where our feet were that night. That's for sure.
Yeah. And Senna
yeah,
rolled up in a space helmet and gave me a joint, I think.
yeah. That's when things, you know, whenever he comes around, that's when things take a turn for the tubular, I think.
Yeah.
It seems to work that way. But yeah, this guy, I was walking around my buddy Taylor, and she was like, "Oh, let's pop in this store," and it's very nondescript from the outside, but you just see like 5 best buddies working in the front.
Oh,
They got all their clothing around the outside, and we walked in, and like it just happened that he made this based on a friend of his and some other personal experiences he went through, just about like staying connected to your friends. Really cool shit, and we got along with him right away and wanted to support the brand, so we did, and stayed close over Instagram. The guy's like wicked talented. He does his own drawings, does his own stitch work, does his own sewing, sources fabrics. Like he's just super into it, and he's really good. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
we'll drop a link for the boy. But
Yeah, if you
I don't know.
don't
I don't know him
mind.
too well, but it's pretty cool stuff.
Ask him if he wants to come on. We'll talk to him too.
Yeah,
Yeah. A man of
he's
business.
he is a man of business. I think he would. He just did a couple panels with like City of Chicago does like up and coming artists, whether they do music, art, clothing, whatever it might be. And he was on that, so he's starting to grow a little bit, and yeah, wish him all the best.
Awesome.
He's
Yeah, good
he's
for
just
him.
a good cat from Conversation One.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the biggest following, but maybe if we help them sell one hoodie, we did
Yeah.
something good today. Because I'm not
What
going
are
to do
they-
anything good the rest of the day.
They always say stuff like this, like Google was in a garage, Facebook was in a garage, like
Mm-hmm.
you got to start with the first step.
That's
I
right.
was in my garage this morning, but I didn't have any good ideas.
Blasting Creed, doing push-ups.
Yeah. Hold me now.
Insane way to start a day, by the way.
It's one of the best, though. I'll tell you.
You can't go back.
You can't go back from that. If you start
Well,
that,
you're going to be in a top tier mindset if that's how you start your day. Like you know what you're getting into that day. You're going to do something good.
I played it in the shower with just the cold setting on full blast, holding the walls.
Clutching your knees down on the floor.
Yeah. Legs behind your head, letting the water hit you directly in the ass.
You got a camera in there.
Yeah, you had the link ready too early.
Are you
Out
live,
here, so
are you
I
live
joined
streaming this?
Yeah.
The new intro.
Well, yeah, dude. Talk to us about. I know you got some older siblings, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, go ahead. You got more to that? I'm too excited. I'm too excited to talk shit about them.
You could tell we did a lot of in-depth research.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, dude, I want to hear about what was it like in your household being you were the youngest?
I'm the youngest. I have 2 older sisters. My oldest is 6 years older than me. The other one's 4 years older. Oldest has 2 kids now. And then the middle now has 3. The youngest being 6 months. So,
Oh wow,
a growing family for sure. I think a lot of people assume when you have two sisters that you don't receive any abuse for whatever reason. They're like, oh, that sounds a lot easier than having a brother. And it usually comes from people who had a brother who are probably using them like you know, a pop socket or whatever the hell that thing was.
Yeah.
A punching bag, if you will. But
Yeah. I still blow off some steam every time I see my little brother.
yeah, got to just tag him up a little bit. But like what people forget is that the psych warfare that sisters can bring into your childhood is just off the charts. And
I can
then
only imagine.
yeah, and then you mix it with my oldest sister was a volleyball player at Purdue. Crazy good athlete. Marilyn was an excellent athlete too. So I got like physical plus psychological abuse. So for anyone out there who just has brothers, you have it easy. I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that I had it breezy. But you know, they're two of my like best buddies today. Obviously, with the kids, I get to play uncle in both of their situations.
Yeah, man,
They're the best. I'm going to see them later today, all day. So yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
super tight with them.
Uncle times 5, dude. That's a lot of Legos you got to buy at Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Legos, but the good thing is I can like sneak one in for me too. Because I haven't outgrown my Lego habit. If anything, I'm only growing it back again. So
get an AT-AT walker for the living
yeah,
room.
yeah. I would like to at some point. I think like as I'm thinking about like my life in like my office space, right? Like, you know, I'm looking at Chip and he's got the Mortal Kombat
I know.
our arcade setup, which is so dope.
I gotta upgrade my background. Right now, like my garage is that space for me. Like I just have all this random shit on the walls, like different hats, memorabilia and things. But I do this podcast in this office where there's nothing on the walls, and that's why, you know, we need to get a sponsor through the Slice Spot, local West Chicago pizza joint, and upgrade our studio.
Yeah, and I can guarantee anyone listening to this, if you go to the Slice Spot in West Chicago, my dad will be there. He will be there. It's probably the place he visits, probably only second to like his chair in his room in the front of the house. Slice Spot is so it is good though. It's legit.
Yeah. I gotta try that if I'm ever back up there, man. I've been here. I don't know if I had any pizza in Chicago, and I think I've always heard that Chicago has one of the best pizzas in the
dude, just all the food up there is so good. Like we talked about Tony Steamer's hot dogs, but there's so many other places that have really good hot dogs and stuff too. And you know, even the Chinese up there got it figured out, dude. The best Chinese food I ever had, King Walk 59, right off Route 59 in West Chicago. You go in there, it doesn't matter how bad your day is going, you will fucking leave with a smile. That's another ad. Free ad.
That's right. Yeah.
We got to start collecting from these people, man.
But circling back, Chuck, you were saying you're like looking at your life now and talking about being an uncle. I don't know. I don't know if you were going into something.
Yeah, I just think it's a really awesome role to play right now. You know, obviously, I'm talking to you guys. You guys are fathers. It's a different element, but you know, in my life right now, I'm very happy to play the role of uncle.
Yeah.
You know, it's an easier job, right? Let's call a spade. Like up front, my job's to get in there, build forts, cause a fucking scene, run around, you know, feed them bad snacks and, you know, sneak in, you know, sugary drinks and stuff. Like it's a pretty easy and awesome role to play.
It's the best role.
But it's the best because then the kids rock with you super heavy. So
right.
Yeah, I got like Dave was saying, I got a good crew of 5. So it's Isla Everett, Teddy, Margot, and then the newest to the bunch, 6 months old, is Alfie. If this ever gets out, I actually don't mind, but Alfie, who's 6 months, is my number one right now. So one thing I do as uncle too is I keep them in the know of their ranking.
Make them work for it.
Yeah, I think it's effective. My pop kind of did it with me and my sisters growing up, and I think it added a really good element of healthy competition, but also it was incentivizing. It was like a reward system, right? If you were in that one seed and maybe you'd float to two back and forth, um, you felt comfortable. You felt like you know, you were
Yeah.
properly incentivized. You could probably ask for some things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't if you were ranked three.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's a good, effective parenting and aunt and uncle strategy. I think you got to tell the kids, where they're at and never let them get too comfortable with you.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
that'd be tough.
Yeah.
I got having the twins. If we do a ranking system, that'd be things might get ugly.
Yeah. You might
I
have
know.
to,
I know there's
you,
going to be so much competition between the two of them.
yeah. Although I feel like every set of twins I know are just so comically close. Like there's probably some outliers there, but like they seem to just be like natural best buddies. They think on the same wavelength. They're kind of built on the same like, foundations and stuff. So I don't know. You might have less competition than if you had like a staggered, girl situation. If you have 15 months separating
Yeah.
the two, I think you should be a
yeah.
little more scared and probably get a hard hat there. But I don't know with the twins, they always seem, I'm thinking about twin friends of mine and they're always together. Yeah, I think they're looking out for each other. I think you're going to be in the same spot.
Yeah, every set of twins I've met too, that is true, Chuck. They are always super tight. Like always. If the same thing, I have two different sets of twins I know. Every time I see one of them out, it's typically the other one's there hanging out. And yeah, they are. It's crazy. It's like something cognitive, I think, that they share too, where like they're like really in tune with each other, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool. I was gonna say
Yeah.
too, man, the uncle role, and I'm sure you guys, everybody's grown up with uncles. That is an important role in kids' life. To
Mhm.
have that person that is there to just like shoot the shit, cause a little madness, be fun. I'm tight with all. I got a couple uncles, and they're all super cool. There's some. I love hanging out with them to this day. They still get a little crazy, bust out a bottle of Buffalo Trace or something
Yeah.
these days. But yeah, I mean, it's an important role, man. So that's
Uncle
awesome.
Tommy.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
and my
Uncle Tommy's
sisters,
the man.
yeah, oh yeah, go ahead, Dave. You got it.
Well, that's why we got to get to the point where we can do this in person, because I think with the video element, there is so much of like, sorry, like like we can't. But when you're sitting like next to each other, that doesn't really happen, or
Yeah.
not as much. But
I
all I
think
was
there's a
going to
little
say,
delay on this thing too that causes it.
yeah, I was just going to say about especially for the young boys, as the young men, having another male role model being that uncle, because they have their dad, but it's a different relationship. The dad might be more involved with like your grounded like discipline stuff, to where like you said, you can come in and be the fun guy, but then also leave some lasting lessons on
Yeah.
and not just the boys, the girls too. But I'm saying, like Chip was just saying about, growing up with uncles, it was the same for me, man. I would go to my uncle's house and we back then it was Halo 2 and like
Yeah.
I'd sleep over at my uncle's house. We'd put a frozen pizza in and play Halo 2, and then I questioned if he did that every night, even if I wasn't there.
Give you an answer.
Yeah, but no, dude, you're right on the money, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and you recognize that it is an important role as
Yeah.
well as just having fun.
Yeah. Well, my sisters do a great job of that, right? They're like, me and my sisters have been close for our entire life. And I think you obviously go through different periods, being like 6 and 4 years different. Like
Yeah,
right now, my sisters are super close again. Maybe not so much when they were in their teen angst years. They probably butted heads a lot more.
mm-hmm.
Me and my oldest sister were super close when I was like younger. And now I feel like Marilyn and I are close. And a lot of that has to do with geography. She's just in the city with me.
Yeah.
For my oldest is in Naperville in the suburbs. But we've all stayed very close.
That's still
And
good proximity. That
yeah.
That's something I do wish I had. I'm in South Carolina, my brother's in Missouri, and then my sister's in Wisconsin. So we're trying to figure out how we, you know, get all linked up again. But everyone's pursuing their thing. Everyone starting families, things like that. It happens, but I would love for us all to be local, like you and your siblings are.
Yeah, we're super lucky. I think a lot of that comes from my parents, though. My parents grew up in the South Side of Chicago. They're very familial. I think they found it within each other. They both come from like good situations, little different ones, but my mom and dad were always together and like built this whole energy of like togetherness, I think. And like even it goes as far as like we ate dinner tonight, every single night together.
Yeah.
Now, like my oldest sister had volleyball and like academic things. Marilyn had, she was playing softball at the time. She played track. She's like the fastest person I've ever seen that hasn't done anything with it, which is really funny. But then I had like baseball, basketball, but like we actually eat later. We joke with our family. We eat around like 8:30, 9 o'clock, but
after practice and everything.
After practice, so everyone could be there. So like, I feel like that was instilled in us from like my parents, but
I gotta write this stuff down.
My sisters and I kind of kept that going. I think that's why they do such a good job at of kind of communicating like my importance as being an uncle, right? Yeah. Like it is a slapdick position, and like your job is to be like a fucking yo-yo, but like
yeah, dude, that's a good way to put it.
But at the end of the day, like it is important that you're there, and you do a lot of great things. Like you can, first of all, you can alleviate pressure from like their situations, right? They got 3 fucking kids running around, and like you guys know it best, so I'm not going to speak for you, but that house can get chaotic. So like if you can come in and be like comedic relief,
right?
Yeah. Yes, it's rooted in being silly, but like it really does do a lot for like the family dynamic. So they're a great like two-way street. I think they're always giving me like a nice positive reinforcement for being there. So even when it becomes a jester situation, you find a lot of like I don't know, you believe in it, right? You're like, all right, I want to play this role because I know it's actually doing something. So
no, definitely.
So
it is enjoyable, and then like you said, it helps. We did. I've just got one nephew, and then my sister's got another one on the way next week. So, and we don't know the gender yet.
Nice.
They like to be surprised. So,
they do that whole deal, huh?
Yeah. So,
how did you guys do it? Did you guys wait for it to be a surprise, or you find out, 12 weeks in or whatever it might be?
You want to go first, Dave?
We got the blood test. Sorry, I had to think about it for a second. But so the first, we got the initial ultrasound at 8 weeks, and that's when I'll never forget that day, man. It was there. She's trying to adjust the little wand, to get the image on the screen, and it like flashes across. I just see 2 little blobs, and I was like, "Well, like, there's 2 of something. What was that?" And then it goes into focus, and it's just these tiny little, they're like the size of a gummy bear, but you see the little heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're super fast at that point. I don't remember exactly, but maybe like 180, 190 beats per minute or something. And then to find out the genders, there's like a blood test they do nowadays, and it's like 99% accurate or whatever, and it came back, said both female, and that's what we had.
Yeah, for me, with my son, we went and we actually found out on the ultrasound what the gender was. He had
those Denby genetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew right away.
The curse of the
No, it was the opposite. They were in there for like 4 hours trying to locate
it. Yeah, we had a false positive. So we did the ultrasound for him, and then for my daughter, we did blood work, and they let us know from there. So
that's pretty dope.
It's
Yeah, I feel
definitely
like
a surreal thing.
I'm sure I can't even like conceptualize that moment. But reason I asked is I had a best buddy of mine, him and his wife, first child, went into it just completely raw. Like went into delivery not knowing.
Oh
And
wow.
Oh,
yeah, the way they put it, I thought it was so cool. He was like, especially in like, and we were kind of talking about this when it comes to like cell phones, and you're just constantly connected, and you're constantly getting this flow of information all the time. If you
it's
want to know something
overwhelming.
right now, you can. If you want to know
Mm-hmm.
it 5 minutes ago, you can. And he was like, it's really like truly one of life's like true surprises you can get. And
Yeah.
he's like, we wanted to kind of protect that and just have fun with it. He figured, fuck it. And I was like,
Yeah.
I did a self assessment. I'm like, I don't know if I'm strong enough to do that. I'd be a nervous wreck. I'd be trying to like plan things ahead of time. But it
Yeah.
was really cool that they did that, I thought.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome.
I mean, you
you
got
need
to
to have a
think
certain element of strength for that.
it was only only very, very recently people got the choice if they wanted to find out or not. Like, um, Lauren's grandma came with us to one of the ultrasound appointments, and she's I believe early 80s. She's in her early 80s, and she had 4 children, and the ultrasounds like weren't even a thing. So you think, so that was she probably was having kids about 60 years ago, and they had no idea. So like, how recent? When could you find out gender? Was it 50 years ago, 40 years ago? Like, I don't know. We'd have to look it up, but we need to hire someone to do that for us. But
That'll be me. That'll be my job. When I meet my foot long sub, like I'll be the researcher.
yeah, getting
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
mayonnaise and mustard all over the keyboard.
Yeah. I'll be head of research. Yeah.
Well, you gotta, dude. Like, it's even with twins. Like, I think about our situation. Like, maybe you would know. Like, a lot of mothers would know because they could kind of feel to like. All right, what is this? 8 appendages fucking kicking me and punching me? Like, is this an octopus or is it twins? And stuff like that. They probably would like the mother's intuition is I think like a different sense that people haven't even figured out fully yet. But like I felt like my wife kind of knew there was 2. Like we kind of joked about it. It was very strange. Like we had this feeling, and then it happened, and but anyways, yeah, this is modern. This is recent where you could find out the gender. Like before, you just oh shit, here's a baby. Oh wait, there's a second baby coming out. Like what is like it would all be a surprise.
President Bush, there's the second baby. Yeah. Are we good for 9/11 jokes here or no?
Yeah, enough time's passed.
Yeah, there's
Get this thing canceled before it starts.
it's
No, but that's wild. That's a wild experience. And like I feel like it's
unplugged.
I think yeah, it seems more I think it seems more like a daunting thing to maybe us today because of how quickly you can access things. But like back then life was a lot more simple. We talked about like our life being bikeable growing
Yeah,
up. I think like it's not as grandiose of this like surprise because life only had these like certain there were certain fences to it. Things just didn't seem I don't think as odd
Yeah, and if
to us
you
now.
don't have any access to it, like certain tribes that are cut off from society, and they're happy as can be because they don't even know that there's access to things like that, right? Like, if we go back to like people
they're
not
happy
knowing
now.
the gender, that's just the baseline, right? They probably think nobody even thinks about that because it's like, is that even possible, right? So it's not even on people's minds. Like before cell phones, nobody's
Yeah.
even thinking about, this is just the way life is, and there's no changing it until something changes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No,
like
it's interesting for sure.
they also don't know what they're missing. Like they're happy.
Yeah, it's true.
They're happy out there, but they have not felt that rush when you got yourself and 3 buddies in the X-Field chopper after a match of Warzone. Put 8 kills, 3,500 damage on the board. Like, I ain't going back to the fucking jungle after that.
That is
Yeah.
true. There is a rush in that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a rush unless you get the title, the medic.
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
the guy who gets it. And it's
Or
like they're just
the
throwing you like a
survivor.
participation. Yeah, survivor.
Yeah,
Survivor.
You get a
scavenger's another rough
participation
one.
trophy.
You're just running around grabbing all the shit, not doing anything.
Yeah, scavenger might be the worst one you can
Yeah.
get. That might be the worst one you can
You
get.
get called a
Yeah.
scavenger after a win.
Everyone's like, ballistics expert. And then it's like scavenger.
Headshot. Something like, what was the headshot? I don't know.
Sniper.
Headshot hunter or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Headshot honcho. Throwback. Halo.
That's what I was thinking, but I was like, that can't be right.
Yeah. Which actually quick side plug. I do appreciate the early morning today because I got a chance to walk over to that Xbox and make sure I downloaded Black Ops 6. So
Oh yeah, that dropped
yeah.
yesterday, didn't it? Actually
Dude,
2 days ago, right?
I've been debating it. It's tough, having newborns. I'm not the gamer I used to be, but I always liked the Call of Duty campaigns, and that was something easy. I could sit in the living room and have the still I could hold a baby and play that campaign. Like it's
you can
pretty
pause
chill.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to have the same intensity. Yeah.
It's
which
a
is
one-on-one
good.
in the circle, though. There's
Yeah. I saw something pop
no
up
room
on
for error.
Wait, what did you say?
I said if it's 1v1 in the circle, though, there's no room for error. Heartbeats through the roof.
Well, you got to make a decision at that point, right? Like, let's say the kids are crying. They clearly need something. They need you.
Oh yeah, I would just.
But you're 1v1 gas closing. Like, you have a decision to make as a father and an esports athlete.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'd be an opportunity.
Run with the light machine gun and use your toe to hold down the trigger while you tend to the kids.
Well, it might just be an opportunity for like a really early life lesson. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you could just sit there and cry all you want, but I'm gonna get the dub for the boys, regardless. So, give it up.
Yeah, I'm doing this for us. Yeah, you can. Yeah, control
I'll
the
write
narrative.
stories about me.
I'm gonna put this clip on YouTube. It'll get 7 views.
It's good.
But man, that's something you said earlier about. It was kind of similar for me. I had one older sister, and same case. Like through the teenage years, it was like my sister never came out of her room, and like she was like my mortal enemy. But then there was one day, man. She was a senior in high school, and I was a freshman in high school. So she would drive. She would, I did have the option to take the bus when we were going to West Chicago High School, but where else, my sister could drive as well. And there was one time we got to school early or whatever, and my sister showed me she had a little bit of devil's lettuce and
That changes everything.
Yeah, we I don't know what, I can't remember what.
And you returned it to the police station?
I said, "What are you doing? This is illegal." But no, I think we had
you civilians arrest. Yeah.
I think I don't know what we had. Maybe like one of those little one hitters or something. But we got a little high before school, and that changed the dynamic of me and my sister's relationship. Like, I don't know. I'd have to talk to her. I don't know if she remembers that, but you're right, dude. Growing up, it'd be like my sister babysitting me and my brother, and it would be like war in that household. Like, we were enemies. But as you start to get older, me and my sister have grown much closer. Especially once we both got into our 20s, and like I said, now she has basically one's on the way next week. But man, it's crazy how that works. Even me and my little brother, man, like we used to fight all the time, but it would be such a quick, like we could have a battle in which, like we're hitting each other in the face and stuff like that. But then an hour later, like we're just hanging out, playing like Star Wars video game or something. Like it's so fast to turn that off, like you never stay mad at your siblings for very long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very easy to reach like a point of like compromise, I feel like. But yeah, you're totally right. It does come down to like all of a sudden one day you're just like close again. I think you
Yeah.
realize that maybe you meet enough people outside of your family and you're like, you know what?
Fuck these people.
Fuck these people. Like
Yeah.
you're actually pretty dope.
Yeah.
Um,
We both have the
and
same
then
childhood trauma. Let's be friends.
right. Yeah. But it's a good point to hit. Yeah. And then especially us now. I'm 32. My sister's 30. Marilyn's 36. Elizabeth's 38. We're just not. You're at a certain age now. You just care about things that are so much different. Like I have not fought with my sisters in probably. I would be comfy saying 10 years.
That's
Like,
awesome.
what are we going to fight about at this point?
Right.
There's nothing,
Yeah.
right? We're not fighting over the TV. We're not fighting over, I don't know, just bullshit
Yeah.
stuff. Like, they have kids, we have relationships, like we have like ups and downs. Like you're you get equipped with the most like natural set of friends, and like I think as you get older, you just become that for one another. So it's a cool thing to see, and like it also makes you closer when you're fighting when you're young, and
Right.
it's
Oh.
super fun to like just drive them fucking crazy. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so fun.
Oh,
So
yeah.
fun. I used to I used to get out of the shower, dude, and I'd be like butt naked,
Whoa.
and I'd be running laps around the house. But I'd run into their bed and like do a can opener, onto their bed, and they'd be like, "Dad, he's fucking gross." They're screaming, but like, if I don't go ass to pillow, are we this close right now? I like to think I like to think I did something noble.
Yeah, you're setting groundwork.
We're fucking
Yeah.
dropping skid marks on that bed.
Yeah, a lot of pink eye on Clue Street
Oh.
growing up.
That's fucking hilarious, dude. So you were talking about a little bit before about your parents. Tell us more. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't have. Or I mean, both. Honestly, me and Nick are both. Both of our parents went through a divorce, and have different situations. So I don't know if you ever sit down and talk to your parents, like how they met, like because you started saying they chose to kind of build a bond, like a close family unit early on. Like maybe they I imagine like what we just went through, like that first pregnancy. You have these conversations, like how are we going to do this? What kind of family are we going to be? Are people going to talk shit about our kids, or are we, are we going to be the fun house that the kids want to play at? Like all these conversations come up. So I imagine your parents went through the same thing, and they decided, they wanted to have a certain family unit. So yeah, have you ever talked with that stuff with them?
Yeah, I'd love to rip on this because I feel like this might be the most I can offer you guys today, because I love my parents, like bar none. They're just like the best people. They got their flaws like anybody else, but I feel like everything good I have is it all at some point like derives from them. My mom came from like a pretty big family tree, like a legacy family in the south side of Chicago. So like grew up, super wealthy. She's one of six. Her family was very involved in like the arts. They still have like an ongoing foundation. They kind of had this access that not many families so she grew up in Beverly, which is like a southwest suburb of Chicago. They had access to certain things that not most in that neighborhood did. And then my dad grew up in the neighboring town called Mount Greenwood. My dad's actually adopted, which is crazy. Hopefully this doesn't get out too much. I want you guys to go viral, but it could lead to a spoiler in my dad's life campaign, because he was actually born out of infidelity. He was born out of an affair.
Like Jon Snow?
A little bit like Jon Snow. Like, I don't want to give him that credit because it's a little too cool for him, but no, he was born from a precarious position, right? And it's worth being told because you have this balance. You have my mom from this like legacy family you can trace back to like
Yeah.
literally like presidents, and
The
then you have
Mayflower.
yeah, and then you have my dad who like he's the starting point,
Right.
especially for me as like his son. Like he's the first one, I'm the second, and hopefully, God willing, there's a third and fourth, fifth, and so on. But he comes
Right, like
from a
he was starting from scratch, like starting a new family line in a way.
Well, that and he had no like
right.
probably reliance to like how a family structure. I don't know, but I
Yeah,
imagine that was a big difference too of how to do it right.
yeah, yeah. He had a wonderful situation. He was adopted, so it was an open adoption. He's remained, and until she passed, we were very close with his biological mother. She was a wonderful lady. She was like such a Chicago cat. Um, Brought us to like all cool restaurants in Chicago. Love the Cubs. We're White Sox fans, but it was still cool that she was like involved.
Yeah.
But my dad had a great situation that he went into. So it wasn't for lack of like, he had great role models. My grandma's still alive. She's, slowing down right now, but just like a phenomenal woman, badass, like Southside Irish woman. She's like
Oh,
tough as
yeah.
all hell. So he had a great network, but like,
She's
it's
killed a
still
few.
true that he just didn't have like the legacy, the foundation that my mom had. So, but they both found each other. They went to the same elementary school, so they were familiar.
Hmm.
I always get this wrong. We might have to revise this for error, but they met when they were like, 13, 12, 13, started hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they like kind of looked up to each other, if that makes sense. My mom kind of came from this like colder, but like substantiated family. And my dad came from this more like freeform, warm, less substantiated family. So they like
Right.
sought each other out, were a good balance, good yin and yang.
Mm.
And they just never left. And I know their date is June 3rd. I think they got married in 79. So they're cooking, they've been married for a long time. And I think them being like best buddies, like they hang out all day. To my mom's like, my mom would love to get some free time. My dad follows her around. But they hang out all the time. They're best buddies, like to the truest form. And I think they just set the tone from the top of like, when you find good people, when you have family, like spend time with them, take care of each other. They were looking for each other for different reasons. And I think they just built a really strong foundation with one another. Probably in spite of and because of the families and the networks they came from.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Did they ever drop any advice about, like rough times to be able to make it through such a long period? I mean, from 13 to now. Like,
Yeah.
did they ever say like, if there was rough times, what they did to get through it, or like was it just that being able to be friends like that and hang out and and worry and depend on each other that kind of made it work for them?
Yeah, I think they've always had fun. I think they've prioritized fun. I know that sounds cheap and it sounds a little elementary, but they prioritize fun together. They go out to eat, they go shopping, they go on trips when they can, right? When it's appropriate, when they can. It's not frivolous. It's like, it's prioritized. The other thing I think they've done super well is they just communicate with one another and they respect each other like to a pure equal standpoint.
Right.
Even when it comes down to like my dad's got deficiencies in the cooking department. Okay. If you gave him a pan, he'd be like, what the hell is this? Is it a weapon?
He's not
So
wrong.
my mom takes lead in the kitchen, but he goes, you know what? I'm going to take all the dishes. Right. So he's cognizant of like, I think they're cognizant of their own strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And they really root for each other's like strengths and they help each other out when like their weaknesses are coming up. So like, yeah, they communicate and they prioritize fun. I think that's the two things they've really like instilled in us is like, you should be having fun, you should be spending time with your friends. You should be traveling. You should be going out to eat. You should be, but also like working hard, have fun doing that.
Right.
they've been through some tough times, and we can get into this story in more depth too, because I think it was a good thing for our family. But we had Elizabeth, Marilyn, myself, and then my parents did have I had a younger sister. She was only alive for about 4 months. She had trisomy 13, which is like a plague on the 13th chromosome. It's pretty wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Survival rates, like even to make it to like term or make it to birth is like, that's a rarity. We got 4 extra months. We call them bonus months.
Yeah.
So shout out Margaret. She kind of defined our family, but that they had a death of a child, and
I can't even imagine, man.
Yeah, I kind of.
What's harder than that?
Yeah.
What's harder than that? They made it through it, and I think it really just went back to those foundations of they were just there for each other. They're compassionate people, but I also think they're like driven. And again, they prioritize fun. They prioritize our family. They prioritize communication. So like, I've grown up with this thing that should be that probably most families might take as like a really tough situation. And obviously it's tough. It's caused a lot of like turmoil and such.
It could destroy a family.
Yeah.
And it can destroy a family. It's only been a good thing for us. Like, it's so bizarre for me. I think I was like 3.5, almost 4 when Margaret passed. And to me, I celebrate her birthday. July 15th comes around. That was the day she passed. So she was born March 23rd, passed on the 15th of July. We like celebrate those days. And like that whole like in the middle time, she's always coming up in conversation. Oh, she's sending us some love and stuff like that. Like, it's so, I applaud them for like taking something like that and turning it into something so, I hate to say it, but like just positive. It's like, it's been such a fuel source for us. And I think all of us as individuals too. So it's been pretty cool. I admire them for that greatly.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
That's off to them because
because they had you three, all probably everyone under the age of 10.
Yep.
I don't know. I'd have to crunch the numbers when I'm not having coffee. But dude, like I mean, not to fucking jump in with some shitty jokes, but I could not imagine that at all. And like I said, it could destroy a family, but I could imagine they looked at you and your sisters and kind of made that decision, like we have, this could ruin us, or this could be something that just makes them stronger and allows them to really focus on the three of you. And man, I think you had briefly told me about that some point in the past, years ago, but like to hear what happened, man, that's terrible. It breaks my heart to imagine, like, especially right now when I have 2 newborns that are 2 months old. I could not imagine what your parents went through, man. And
that's the thing. I was there. I was, a shade under 4, but I have no idea. And actually, it came up. Me and my pop were watching the World Series game last night, and Fernando Venezuela, who was a pitcher for the Dodgers, he had passed recently. Super famous guy. I saw it. But my dad had asked me, he's like, what's the number 34 on the mound for? And I told him it was for that. And he's like, man, wouldn't it be crazy? Like, you just show up one day, like when it's all said and done, you're in the afterlife, and all these people who you knew who had gone along, and they're like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So I think another element of my parents that I don't think is like, they're not magical about it, but they're very like open to it, I would say.
Are they religious in any way? Do they have a spiritual?
Yeah, they both are, but they're an interesting type of religious. It's more about like the traits, right? It's more about like just being nice to people, right? And I like to use the example of like anyone who is in a service position, waiter, waitress, bartender, someone who's helping you out. like to treat them just with the utmost respect and kindness, and like understand how hard they're working.
And you don't know what they lived. You don't know what they've been through. You know.
Yeah, and like, you know, we're in fortunate financial position. I am individually as well. Like I like to. It's a responsibility you have. It transcends like just a nice thing to do to someone. To like, you have a responsibility to be nice to people. You can't be in a position where you're like,
no,
ever treating somebody less than or things like that. So I think a lot of those traits I learned from my parents too. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's precarious. They're not so magical about like the afterlife and stuff. And like when it comes to religion, it's truly more about like respect for people, listen to people, know their name, ask them how they're doing, just be there. Like,
yeah,
we're all floating around here,
Right.
you know, like make it a better time for everyone else.
Yeah,
My mom can be a little more traditional at times, but you know, obviously we grew up in mayhem. Dave knows, Den of Thieves. You know, those things, like if we got caught doing them, they were, it wasn't the end of the world, right? Where I think in another situation where you're like very staunch religious, like it can be a problem. We were always taught to be ourselves, be individualistic, but like if you were violating terms of bullying, right? If you were being a bully, that's worse than probably anything, you know? So, and I think it gave us good boundaries and good things to follow.
My mom always told me this this phrase, like just coming up in school, and I liked it because it was, you know, some parents would be very much so like you can never fight anyone, like that's wrong, blah blah blah. My mom would say like, you know, I don't want you to be at school like starting any fights, but if someone else starts one, like you better finish it. And I took that to heart, man. But I never finished a single fight. I got my ass kicked all the time. I'm just kidding. But it sounds like your parents were similar in that way. Like it's okay, you know, get in a little bit of trouble, do this or that, stand up for a friend. You know, if it means you get suspended for fighting, like, but it was for a good cause, then
yeah.
Oh well, like, you know, you can stay home and watch, you know, whatever the fuck we watched. But
yeah, my dad told me a similar thing. It was basically, you know, if you ever get into a fight, I better not hear that you were the person that hit somebody first.
Yep.
And that's it. And then, because then, you know, it's fine because you know, you got to defend yourself. But if you're the first person to land a punch, you're starting something, you're insinuating something, you could be picking on somebody, you know. Why were you the one to initiate that and hit somebody?
Being that bully.
Yeah.
Because, man, we were all like, you know, you're testing the waters when you're growing up. You know, I'm sure I you know, I've got some people I should apologize to if I spiked a kickball at their face or something at playground.
For sure. I know.
But dude, it's like you don't know what. Looking back, man, it's like you don't know like what that kid's life was like at home, and you know, just because they're acting a little bit weird, you know, they get a basketball thrown at their stomach, and then they throw up all over the playground, and
it feels like a real memory there.
You definitely did that, Dave.
I'm just thinking of something that could have happened, you know,
hypothetically.
Yeah, but like, man, looking back, it's like what some of those kids were coming from a rough environment that, you know, and that's what I did enjoy our upbringing, man, like being those public elementary school, like we were public school all the way through, and we had such a blend, like West Chicago and Winfield, and we were combined, you know, in one area, and you got a lot. You just got such a variety at our schools, and I think it helped us. To be honest, you know, like I feel like you know, I could be comfortable around all kinds of all different backgrounds. because of it. Like we weren't just in our little bubble with like, like it wasn't just like a totally a low income area. It wasn't like a wealthy area. It was just a good blend, good mix of families and good mix of kids.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think like getting exposed to that when you're a kid is like super important, right? And like it's obviously a topic of always like being like in a diverse situation, like understanding people's values, where they come from, differences, whatever it might be. And like the bottom line is you have to respect those things. I think you make a great point too, because I'm laughing to myself too, because there's been countless situations where I've been a jackass, done the wrong thing, still do the wrong thing. Like you're not impervious to it ever, but it's more of like are you going to take something away from it? Are you going to change a little bit because you recognize you shouldn't be doing that? Like that's the compassionate layer. I think that's important. It's not that everyone should be perfect and make the right decision all the time, but are you like getting a little better? Are you learning from it? Right. Are you going to pass it on to somebody else? Right. Like that's just as important. And it does kind of come down to really just like evolving. And I know that's kind of a strange thing, but
it's a term from Pokemon.
Yeah, a term originally derived by Pokemon. But yeah, it's super important to if you look back and you feel remorse and you feel like you can change for the better, and maybe you can pass it on to your kids, like that's great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you can't look at yourself as shame for that. It's just it happened.
I've got a lot of remorse. I don't sleep well these days.
But like, are you going to correct? And like, man, I've been through it this year for sure. And I think it's never going to stop, right? You're always going to have these like challenging moments and learning moments and things where you need to improve yourself or like think differently and act differently. And like, they just always come up. They're never going to stop. Like it's going to happen to us when we're 50 and 60. And when Chip's up, the first man to be 145, he's going to learn something too. That's right. But like, I think that's what it's about, right? Like, are you willing to correct? And that's how you can be a good person. Are you willing to correct? Are you willing to put in the work and like make a change? So,
yeah, it's important to look back at those things and take it into consideration. Like you said, that's perfect. If you sit there and you're just ashamed, I mean, you're not going to fix anything. You could be ashamed all day about every decision you've ever made. But if you look at it and say, well, I was a little wrong here, maybe a little right here. If I ever encounter this again, what am I going to do? And that's how everybody grows. Or should grow. Some people don't.
Yeah. But hey, you guys want to do a quick pause, bathroom break? And I got to see if there's more coffee on the pot.
Yeah, actually, I'll go take a quick piss.
That'd be great. I'm actually going to make a quick coffee too.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you're thinking about what are you going to do with your life and things like that. Were there any defining moments in high school where you were like, you know what? I know what I want to do, or like you had always been interested in a particular college or something. Like, what was kind of like you would say the defining moment of when you decided this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going, and kind of how that pathway went?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably one I should think about a lot more too.
It's all of us.
You know, it's funny. I think sometimes I'm a little envious of people who have really good memory. I think about like, I think of my childhood super fondly, and obviously like Dave and I have already been through a bunch of memories and stuff that like, means a lot emotionally. But when I think about like the transactional stuff growing up, I don't know if I was as conscious back then about what I was going to do in my 20s, what I was going to do in my 30s, what I was going to do in my 40s. To be honest, I was a lackluster student, super lazy, very reliant on my athletic ability to get me through. So I played baseball, basketball. I played everything, but those were the two sports I came down to. My parents and I joke, my sisters would come home with like these school projects and they'd have, this is due by the end of the week and it's Monday night. And hey, Mom, can we go get supplies from Walgreens? And they'd go get poster board and they'd go get stuff. And my dad would be like, why do you never have homework? I was like, I don't know. They're not giving me homework, just not a thing anymore. I was very lazy. I was very much in tune with my own bullshit. Like I could get away with stuff.
Yeah.
And I think being the youngest obviously like spurs that a little bit, but also like when it came to like academics and such at school, I think I spent a lot more time like being communicative. That's a nice way of putting it. I was like really bullshitting with my teachers, like building a rapport as like people.
Right.
So I'd race and do my homework. Like I remember Miss Arnold in high school math. She was like,
Yeah,
she
I
was like,
remember
boy,
that.
is this ink fresh? You know, I'd come into her class and she's like, man, I could wipe my hand across it and erase all your stuff. Um, so I was definitely caught in my fabrication of like, oh yeah, I'm working super hard and stuff like that. The truth was I wasn't. I think I was, much more involved socially, I think, with people. It was almost like being like sociology might have been a career that I could have spent a lot of time in. I just like to spend time with people, kind of cut the
Right.
shit and like, you know, hang out. So what I did was to go back to your question, I again was playing basketball and baseball. I kind of built a list of schools like here's where I could play basketball. Here's where I could play baseball. Here's where I could do both. Here's where I would go just academically. The academic list was like covered in dust in 2 weeks because I was going to be super reliant on athletics to get me to college. And that's exactly what happened. So, I played baseball. I got a scholarship to go to St. Joe's. It was a Division II in Rensselaer, Indiana. It's actually no more a school. They lost their was it academic accreditation
Oh shit.
policy,
Oh, really?
not because of quality, but because of funding. So,
Yeah.
but a great place. It was. We had a couple couple pros, couple MLB players come out of there. My coach himself played on the Red Sox for a few years.
Oh man.
Yeah, I connected with him really well, and you know, my parents loved him too because he offered some sort of like militant procedure to his life, I think. And so when I went there, I think I started to grow up like kind of like day one on campus in college. So Nick, to your point, like I don't think when I was in college, or I'm sorry, when I was in high school, I really even thought past college, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right. You're just kind of
I was
going
just
with
kind of,
it. And I think that's probably most people are like
yeah, I was
that.
just kind of going with it. And, you know, my dad was,
Yeah.
my dad worked at a big firm. He's done everything from like prosecution to defense to he ended up on his own for like 15, 17 years, personal injury attorney at his own firm. Truth be told, I think I always saw that as like a safety net. Like I could always take the LSAT.
Right.
You know, I could test well and things like that. And if it really came down to it, I'd study hard. I always
kind of work under him, kind of thing.
kind of work under him, be a
Right.
mentor, or like be mentored, be a mentee, take on the Rolodex,
Follow
follow
the
the path. So
Yeah.
not until college,
I think that happens a lot.
I think so. Like it became this like really, it became something that was so close in proximity that it felt like it was easy to get to. And at that point in my life, I was all about like, let's get the easiest, quickest way to like a good amount of money.
Yeah.
But until I got to college and really got like my bell rung, I think that was a very defining point in my life. You know, my coach was super tough against, again, he was like super militant. He played on the Red Sox, but I had to follow like strict rules when it came to like showing up on time, you know, 5 a.m. waits.
Mhm.
That was probably the last time I was up this early.
Yeah.
It was probably in college.
5
Yeah,
a.m.
5 a.m. waits,
Yeah.
eating the right way,
That's good for a young
Yeah.
man, though. Build some
build
character.
some character, being at school, like, you know, being present in class, but not just being at class, but like participating in class. So he had like two filters to his requirements, which is like, you obviously have to be there. He's like, that's like a passive requirement.
Right. It's a given.
The other one is you need to participate. He's like, we're a team that has a certain culture, and like you're going to be representative of your professor, but also your student body. Like you need to respect them, respect your peers, stuff like that. So I learned so much from him. Like we butted heads forever, but like, you know, he's one of my favorite people still to this day. I see him at weddings.
And what's his
His
name?
name's Rick Odette.
That's
Rick.
awesome.
Rick Odette. O''DETTE.
When you went to play, did you stick with the major that you got throughout the whole way, or did you go in like for like a general studies and then like you had a class or something that you really liked, or had some guidance where somebody said this would be a good path?
There's
him?
Is that
Ricky.
him?
He's the fucking man.
Sick.
He's the fucking man. Like,
Little action shot.
I'll tell you a funny story after I get to, like, I'll answer Nick's question first, but remind me to tell you a funny story when I hit and walked a bunch of people, because he gave me some of the best advice in my life. He's a great dude. He's got 2 kids. His youngest is playing in college now.
Wait, but can we pull back for
Yeah.
a second? You're saying that you said a phrase. You said you got your belt rung. Are you talking about, was it this man that like kind of reset your mindset? Is that what you mean by? Is that what you meant by that phrase? Or like just the I fucking was a menace in high school, like, and that's what I'm kind of trying to relate it to, like me and Nick's experience. And this is so interesting to us because it was like college and sports and all that were just kind of, that was out the window for, like, I mean, sports for sure, I didn't have a chance, but like college, I didn't even apply to a single college, because we knew we wanted to join. We were just going to go join the military, and so like, was it a rude awakening in a way? Is that where you're saying you butted heads with him? Where you it was just this different? Because I mean, it sounds similar to in a way what we went through. All of a sudden, you're at boot camp, waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and you're like I was not living this way in high school. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think it. My life went from like I could be lazy and get by. Like, think about a true test taker, right? I think there's 2 type of people academically. Some people are good at taking tests, studying, getting the job done when you have to. Other people work super hard day in, day out. They have great discipline. Yeah. I guess there's 3 because they work really hard, but maybe they don't take tests well, or they don't execute when it matters. The presentation, they fold. And then there's kind of the third person who is constant, right? They're studying day in, day out. They test well. They excel academically, right? There's kind of 3 tiers the way I see it. I was the first bucket, which is like whatever I could do to do the least amount of work possible and pass the class. That's how I was in high school. When I'm talking about getting my bell rung, this man showed up in my life at a great time where I was, I think, open to like changing. And he showed up and kind of taught me a great way. He was like, building upon the attributes that like my family instilled and stuff like that, like being respectful of people. He's like, you're not being respectful of people when you're being lazy. When you're in class and you're fucking around and your teacher wants to fucking throw you out a window because you can't get the curriculum done because you're talking too much, that's being disrespectful. Whereas I thought at that time, just by being nice to him in the hallway or saying, hi, how's the family? Like stuff like that. I thought I was being like cordial with him. He's like, no, there's another element of it. There's another layer where it's like, you need to show up all the time for people. So he taught me that right away. And when I got to school, if you weren't in class, if you weren't getting your job done,
I want to talk to this guy.
He's a stud, dude. He's psycho, but he's a stud. But he just taught us the right way right away. And he was like, if you want to be a part of this team, if you want to continue to do stuff, like you have to do it the right way. And so I started going to class, applying myself every day. I took pride in like getting a good GPA. I think I had a 32 on my ACT in high school, so I could test well, but I had like a 2.6 or 2.7 GPA. Because I was like, I knew I was going to play sports in college. I didn't need the GPA. I just needed to get into the school. this guy was like, you need to flip that around. You need to have the highest GPA and the highest score, right? So he's a mentality changer, I think. Yeah, he played for the Red Sox. I think there was a crazy story. So he was in batting practice for the Red Sox, and he took a line drive in batting practice off his head, and his whole equilibrium got shot. And so his career was over.
Man.
He like couldn't like, he has to wake up like 15 minutes earlier than he should even wake up to like recalibrate himself and like get his ears set, get his eyes set, stuff like that. And so he's a guy who went through a lot of like real trial and tribulation.
He's like an old computer, huh?
Yeah. He's a bit like an old computer who has like an iron,
anybody when he's
an iron up. Fist. Yeah.
He could fucking hit a home run.
But even like I tested the waters with him, right? Like, we get caught drinking when I went to school when I was 18. I was a freshman. I was on campus when I was 17. 18. I was early.
Like you moved in during that, sometime during the summer.
Yeah, I would go back and forth in the summer, and then
what's that, dude? Or what's that like? Did you have the whole, I mean, now where I'm at now, I've dropped out of college like 3 or 4 times, but before that, my only exposure to college was like movies or things like that, where you see the whole scene where the parents show up, they drop off their kids. Did you have that kind of experience? Did your parents take you to Indiana for your first day? And
yeah,
was there anything notable about that, or were you trying to get away from them?
No, it was terrifying. It was super terrifying. I was I went to it was a super small school, right? So I think that element helped a lot with the transition, because I'm going from a high school population. Dave will check me on this, but we were probably like 2,400, 2,600, pretty good size school. I go to a college that's the same size. So like,
that's nice. Yeah. So it's not this giant culture change.
Yeah. And again, I went there for 2 years. I ended up going to Mizzou, which is like 45, 48,000. It's huge.
Here's what the droids say.
2,000. All right. That seems,
You're about, yeah.
All right. I was a little
and it could
heavy.
have been, well,
average
this,
ACT is pretty good. 26 for that.
This sounds accurate. I always tell people at our high school, like being a white kid, like we were the minority at our school.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, these numbers don't add up nearly to 100. So I don't know what the rest of the students were made up of. Maybe fucking aliens, but
yeah, the guy who took the big turd. Remember that?
Some say
some say it was
you're gonna breeze over this when somebody drop a phantom turd.
Well, I feel like everybody who has a high school story has a story about like a big turd that like can't be solved.
It's like 6 periods. There's this giant turd that's been in the bathroom since like before school started. And by the end of the day, everyone's taking.
It looked like a pool noodle, dude. It was outrageous.
There'd be a couple brave
hanging out the rim of the toilet.
There'd be hanging out of the stall, dude. It was crazy.
Yeah, had to walk away.
It was probably the art teachers. They probably like paper mache the turd and like just messed with us.
Yeah, laid it in there.
And you saw, I just pulled up the demographic of the school, man. They were eating hot Cheetos with nacho cheese in the bag. And, even, dude, there'd be a couple fearless young ladies that would venture into the men's room just to see it, just to say they were a part of it. Every school went through it, not just us. I don't think
every school has the one.
Yeah.
But showing up to college was fun. It was like very prototypical. Like, yeah, parents dropped you off, said hi to everybody. My coach came over and like, obviously was like, hey, well, take care of them. Everything's gonna be good. But then you get dropped off, man. That's that. And your parents leave. And you're like, for the first time in your life, you're, truly on your own. And there's something liberating about it that's really fun, right? It's exciting. You're like meeting people walking. One of my best buddies, Q, I met him probably 15 minutes after my parents left. Him and I are still, but like super close.
What's his name?
His name's Quentin Alexander. But he goes by Q. Just awesome dude. But you have that, but then you go home to your dorm and you're like, oh shit, where are my parents? Where's my support system? What am I doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
And you have to like figure out your schedule and stuff.
I want.
I was babied for sure. Like I was super babied, I think, growing up through high school graduation. So getting there was a shell shock a little bit. You're on your own. You got to like perform to your schedule that's expected of you. You have to go to class and like do these things.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I think I got my bell rung was I had those demands plus what my coach put on top of our whole team. So it wasn't about being at class on time. It was about being there 10 minutes early, sitting in the front. It wasn't about just sitting in the front and soaking in material, but are you asking questions? Are you helping out your peers? It wasn't about getting to the baseball field 10 minutes before practice, but 30 minutes before practice. Are you helping like do some weeding or, making sure the baseballs are good, making sure like everybody has their equipment, the locker room's clean, like all these elements like just added up. And, it became a really good source of discipline for me. I don't think I lived my life for 18 years with like discipline, and I started to see what it was like. And my life got a lot better too when I started to be more disciplined. So the more I was at class, the more I was at practice on time or early, the more I'd stay late and work with other kids on my team or spend time on academics or be involved with coaches or professors, the better things were going. So it was this like triangle of just like you're performing as a human, you're performing as a participant of the college, you're performing as an athlete. And like the marriage of all those things, I think it was just like super good for me. And it was a great time in my life where I was ready to kind of accept some change and be more disciplined, more active, and really just better. I think, I studied hard. I didn't have great success on the field, but I was a good part of the team. So it was like, you just found these areas where you could have success and you just spent more time there. So, it's definitely a shell shock. And even at a small school, like it still brought, some really good experience for me.
Yeah, I think that discipline around, especially that time of age right after high school, is important for people because though we had different experiences, when you were talking about the different demographics of people in high school, I really felt that because I fell into the same demographic as the top. Like I could pass what I needed to, but it was always last minute. I never tried. I didn't care because I knew I was going to go to the military. So I did, it was always bare minimum. Then I went to the military and I got a massive amount of, discipline instilled in me of this is what you have to do. This is how you have to keep yourself accountable and all these different things. And it changed my life for the better too. I think that a lot of people probably, that's such a formative time in everybody's life where you're going out from the house and to get that hit from, and you got it from the coach, but I think that a lot of people would benefit from things like that happening right after that, instead of you go off to college and let's say you don't do sports or anything like that. And, you never get that chance to hold yourself really accountable, which, like I said, really changed the outlook of my life I think about it every day, different things I could do to keep myself in check and different discipline just from good leaders that have taught me about it.
Yeah. I can give you a few things you need to do. Work on your discipline.
Yeah,
Don't shit in your bed. The other thing,
today's a new day.
the other thing I think it provides you is like belief in yourself too, which sounds, can sound a little magical, but like when someone believes in you like that and they're like, you can do this. I'm giving you like an intense schedule. You have to commit to it, but like you can do it. There's so much like confidence that instills in you.
Yeah, especially if they tell you those
Feels good.
things and you're nervous and you don't think that you could do it, and then you go and do it, and you're like, wow, I can handle all those things.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
yeah, and like, I have to balance like travel plus my academics plus my social life plus time with family plus XYZ, whatever it might be, and you get it done. You're totally right. You're like, holy shit. This thing that seems so big and so daunting is super possible. Let's lean in a little bit more. So,
then it's like, what else am I capable of?
Now I have to add this for comedic relief too, because being a small school, and this goes into Chip. You were originally asking me like, did I stick with my major? Did I kind of stay throughout? So at that point in time, I thought, I'll go into law. I'm going to go to school, play baseball, get a good education, take my LSAT, go into law. That was kind of like the general template. I'm a junior, so I'm Chuck Jr. My dad's Chuck Sr.
Right.
He doesn't even need to have to change the name. It can just be give me the Rolodex and let's keep it cooking. But
right, yeah, you had a very clear path of something that would be successful.
Right, clear path. Now, way in the back of my mind, right, that's not chosen. It seems like the right move. I didn't necessarily pick it, right? So, on a funnier note, I show up my freshman year. My academic counselor, is married to the athletic director, is my marketing teacher, my finance teacher, and my economics teacher. And I started to study economics with a minor in finance. Now, that reintroduces me into the laziness that I just left, right? Because I have one touch point that solves a lot of my problems, right? So like,
right. You get on the good side with that teacher, and I'm sure, like, you don't strike me as a guy with staying up late shooting for the 4.0. It was probably more of like, what can I do to get degrees kind of thing. Like, as long as I'm on the good side with this teacher, it's smooth sailing.
Exactly right. So, and I'm a bullshit artiste. I won't say artist because I think there's a higher element to what I was doing, but I knew if I could solve her, I could solve a lot of my life, right? So I'd get in good with the AD. The AD is close to my coach. I get in good with her academically. I have 3 classes with her. I'm getting 3 A's, right?
Yeah.
And I shout out to her, wonderful woman, won't name her, but like she comes up to me and she's like, yeah, you can actually triple major. You can triple major in economics, finance, and marketing. Even I knew, I was like, something's a little funky here. Something smells like a shit in the bed.
Yeah. If I never want to go to a party again.
I was like, triple major.
Sounds like a lot. Triple
major. I was like, I never turned homework in on time. So, there were parts of St. Joe's that were just like, a little too convenient too. So I had this great balance with like a great coach who kept me disciplined, but there was also like that invitation to like your past life where you could be a little lazy, less disciplined, stuff like that. So I had to work on that. I had to be like a better person to really judge a situation. And then, I think that prepared me too. I felt more mature. I was making the right decision. I was like, all right, I'm going to gravitate more to my coach and the discipline and stuff that I've learned and less about easy street. And I think as my life has developed, that was the best choice. I think when I think back to like one of the best choices I made, it was like leaning into my coach, the tougher times, the things that sucked a little more. but we're more valuable for like the next 10, 20, 30 years instead of, again, pursuing easy street and like taking the easy way out.
Yeah.
Dude, people, I think, people might not always understand the impact they have as just a coach. You look at, like you said, Division II. Some guys made it to the major leagues, but not. It's probably not like everyone's. It's not like people are planning on it. It's like this is your. But what you get more out of being on that team, it sounds like it's just from this guy, the life lessons, the fact that he was telling you to be involved, ask your teachers how their life is going. And, it's such a crazy thing that he was cognizant of that. And I think, it's something that I'm learning from this episode, even, as my kids start growing up and I want to, be the soccer coach who's, 65% fucked up during the game and, trying to leave something memorable, even to young kids. Like, it's not just college, even if you're just volunteering, there's somebody that might remember you. And I definitely had that for myself, coming from a house where I didn't always have the best male role model. And, there could be like a hockey coach that I looked up to, or things like that,
Yeah. People have a natural way of showing up when you need them too. They pop up and all of a sudden they do a lot.
We're on a theme here. We got a theme for this episode, like being, that role as an uncle, that role as a coach, that role as a brother, as it's all important. Like even if you feel like it's just you out there in the world, where I've had that for most of my life, where all I had to worry about was myself, but you don't know also who you could be affecting.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. I would love to, if this thing grows big enough and we can get a hold of that coach, and I think we would have so much to learn from him, man. He sounds like an incredible guy.
He was a great dude. Well, he had a great family. He has 2 kids. I wouldn't even know how old they are now, but I'll tell you a funny story. This shows you who he is, right? So, well, first things first, I'll offer this. So I ended up getting injured my sophomore year and had to walk into his office and be like, hey, I'm done playing baseball. I'm going to transfer out. Thank you for everything. Right. So like, that's a super intimidating, tough conversation.
Yeah.
What happened? What was the injury?
The injury was super dumb, but it was a culmination of things, right? So like freshman and sophomore year, I'm not performing that well on the field. Me and my roommate get into a fist fight my sophomore year. I punch him in the face, break my hand. I got a brawler fracture, which is like the funniest thing you can get. It just means you didn't throw a good punch, pretty much. He punched me square in the nose. It's the hardest I've ever been hit in my life. I still think about it. It was unbelievable. I was like, I want to leave the earth right now. This is the worst pain I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
We both end up in a classic, like the old school big screen TVs, like the big box ones.
Yeah, dude. We had one in my basement.
They're mostly hollow.
Like on wheels.
They're mostly hollow. So him and I end up in it.
Yeah.
We're wrestling. We end up in it. Inside of it.
Oh, shit. From experience, they're hollow.
Yeah.
That was the best show on that night.
And then, right.
Pay-per-view.
Him and I.
You guys went through the screen of it?
We went inside of the TV. Like we wrestled and like fell over and went.
You guys were getting into it.
Oh,
man.
we had a handle of Gordon's vodka. It was intense.
Oh, that'll do it.
The label looks like it was made on Microsoft Paint. It's like so bad. We had this nasty fight, and like at this point, freshman and sophomore year, like it's not going great from like a sports standpoint. It's a really small school. I just was like growing unhappy. And then it all kind of culminates in this fight and stuff. And I break my hand. I go to the hospital. Actually, the guy I fought with, he was my roommate, still a good friend of mine. Like I still talk to him. He brings me to the hospital that night. So like this all goes back to like I forgot who was mentioning. You know, you'll brawl with your brother, your buddy, whatever, and then you're good in like 30 minutes. Same shit happened. We leave the hospital. I'm like, dude, I gotta go. I gotta leave. I'm like, I'm super done. I don't want to, like, I was like, this was great. I've outgrown it. I don't want to be here, all the above. And so I have to have this tough conversation with my coach. So I went in. I had applied to a couple schools. I applied to Indiana, Mizzou, U of I, and Wisconsin. I got into all of them. Because again, this guy's, you know, gave me a good foundation. So I had good academics, good scores, all that, good credits.
Yeah. When you built that track record with, you know, still Division II, like that's a, you know, like I said, my sports prospects went out the window, you know, probably when my dad walked away from the football game after I fumbled the ball. But it's like, still, like that's to me that's a big deal to someone like us, you know, to be able to play Division II sports. Like that's fucking impressive. But when it got to the point like you having that injury, and then it's like, well, you were probably like, why am I here? Like I could go have fun at like you said, you applied at Madison, Indiana, you know, all the big schools around our area. I think I would have the same mindset. It's like, man, I came here to play baseball and I can't play baseball anymore. So like, let's go have some fun, or let's even, you know, building more credibility. Cause like I know you're about to lead into, you ended up going to Mizzou, right? And having that on your resume versus, you know, St. Joseph's, I'm sure helped you out, you know, later on when you were going to get into the workforce.
Yeah. Well, I think so.
But so how'd you make your decision? If you had all those choices, like me without like, you know, knowing anything or knowing much at all, I'd be like, man, I feel like I want to go to Wisconsin just because I visited there. I know some friends who have been there. Like I know nothing about Mizzou. I've never visited, and stuff like that. So like, how did you make your choice? What led you to that?
Yeah, it was crazy. So it's worth mentioning, after my freshman year, I had talked to my parents like super closely, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is for me. It's a little small. I'm not super happy being here, but like structurally things were going well. I was getting good grades. I was studying well. I was like learning a ton. I was definitely getting better as like, I was like aging the right way. And then on top of it, I had like a scholarship. So, you know, I had a good talk with them, and I was like, all right, I'll give it one more year, reassess. And then all this stuff happened too. So it was more of like a compromise, I think, like a business kind of deal with my parents too. It was like, listen, you're on scholarship. Like, this is a good thing for us. We're saving money.
So this was your second year or third year at school?
I was only there for 2 years, but after my freshman year, I had that conversation of, hey, I don't think I want to be here. And we came to the agreement of like, let's give it one more year of scholarship, one more year of just continuing to learn and grow and stuff like that. So end of my sophomore year, that's when I get hurt. To answer your question, I made a list originally. Remember, I talked back about like, I'm going to play basketball here, baseball here, both here, or academics. Here's where I want to be. I dusted off that academics list and was like, all right, let's apply to like kind of the core schools in the area. So I had Madison, U of I, Indiana, Mizzou. So that was on that list originally, like academics, places I would go. My sister went to IU, to Indiana, Maryland. I had so many friends, so that felt a little redundant, repetitive, kind of seen it.
Yeah.
Right.
Had you you'd visited her before.
I'd been there.
Maybe.
I'd seen it.
Yeah,
U of I.
I remember.
U of I was probably the easiest one to cross out because I had so many friends there. And at that point, I had learned like, hey, it's really fun to meet new people and have new experiences. I was a little concerned about going to U of I and just getting back with like my friends from growing up and just like kind of
keep evolving.
Yeah, like it's not that they're not safe or like productive. It's just more of the same, right?
Yeah. Who was over there? Any recognizable names?
Well, John Gilbertson was there. Matt Zajac was there. These are all Chartwell boys. Chartwell gang.
Oh, dude, you would have you would have had a fucking wild time. But I understand the mindset where, you know, in my grade, it would be like, you know, do I want to be at the same school with, you know, those same, you know, all of our buddies that we know, or you were more so thinking you wanted to try something. Did you know anybody at Mizzou, or was it were you going to kind of uncharted?
No, it was uncharted. So, dude, it really came down to Madison and Mizzou. I kind of on a whim was like, let's do Mizzou. It wasn't like that super thought out. Madison, I think, was fun, and like I had only visited when my sister played volleyball at Purdue, and she had played there. So it was like years before I was ever in college.
It's only 2 hours from home.
But I had it was a good monetary situation. I already liked Mizzou. It just felt, I don't know, it's just something about it. It was also a big school. It just felt fun. It was also the first year they went to the SEC, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I made the choice and just kind of never looked back. So I just continued in things, and like to Chip's point, like I stuck with economics. I stuck with finance. All my credits were going to transfer. Like it was a super seamless transition from St. Joe's to Mizzou. And then
that's perfect, man. Because some of those, that's been my dilemma. I keep moving around, switching schools, and I've probably burned like 2 semesters of like just credits I can't get back, you know, if school doesn't honor them or something. It's so frustrating, you know. I think I've taken chemistry 3 times, and fucking I'm on my second run of statistics, and I'm like, I've already done this.
Yeah.
But you know, I can only blame myself. I keep going to different states, and they don't. Whatever.
I don't care.
But, no, that makes sense, man. If you're already like on track to graduate on time, and all your credits are gonna go forward to a bigger school, you're done playing ball. You know, I'm sure the parties were insane. Like, you know, I'd tell you to go for it if you asked me for advice back then.
No, and I'm happy I did. So I didn't like move. I didn't lose. I think with Wisconsin, I would have lost like a handful of credits or something like that. But going to Mizzou, it was like a pure like one-to-one connection with all my credits. I had friends who had been there who really enjoyed it. So I like texted them beforehand. Hey, you can't go wrong. We have the best like Greek life if you want to get involved. We have like such a good bar scene. We have a great athletics program, like all these things. It just felt like the right move. So
that's chicken tenders at the cafeteria.
Right.
Circling back real quick, just so we don't lose it. So how did that conversation with that coach end up going that you had kind of really built this relationship with?
Yeah. Probably one of the tougher conversations I've had in my life, like for me, right? Like, equal parts of going in there with like joy, right? Like I was really happy. I knew it was the right time to leave. I knew I had thought about this for a long enough time to where it was the right decision.
Right.
It wasn't something brash. I had this great excuse of like being hurt. You know, hey, I'm reassessing things. Yeah. And so it was easier. I had something to fall back on, but I showed up with a lot of joy because I wanted to do what I was about to do. But then on the other side of the coin, I felt a ton of shame, super embarrassed about like not having the statistics and like the career that I wanted when I showed up and wanted to play baseball. You feel
It's hard to close the
It's
door.
hard to close the door.
on
Yeah.
something that
That's a really good way to put it.
you spent. What age did you start playing baseball? You know, that's probably you
Yeah.
know, if I had to guess, if you started, you
Probably
know,
5.
Yeah.
you know, that's
huge. That's a huge decision.
at this point 13, 14 years of your life, and you've only been alive for 18, 19 years. Like, what is
Mhm.
that? You know, crunch the numbers, somebody. But it's probably over 90% of your life is a baseball player, and now you have to say that's done.
Knowing it's a good decision for yourself, but that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
I never played a sport that long. You
Yeah.
know, I hopped around.
And
That's
no, you're
crazy.
totally right. I mean, it's something that I've like since I've had consciousness, I've played. You know, since you can like remember things, I've played.
Yeah.
And to go in there and kind of admit defeat is a little tough.
Yeah.
You know, there was one point in my life when I was in high school where
Depends how you look
Yeah.
at it. I wouldn't see it as defeat, man. Like I tell,
Yeah.
I mean, there's those of us. I didn't even play in high school because I knew I didn't even go to the tryouts because I was playing other sports, but I also knew, you know, like I wasn't anything to write home about on baseball. So I stopped I stopped playing in 8th grade, and then high school I didn't even go out for the team.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's different levels to. You might feel like a failure because maybe a guy in your class made it to the MLB, but like how many hundreds of thousands of kids, you know, have hit a ball off a tee and gave up, you know.
But the problem I had was I was good enough to get there. I think that's the other thing that's a little tough is like, you know, I'm almost 6'8".
Yeah.
Like I was super projectable. There was a point in high school where I was still growing and I had more interest from like pro scouts than college scouts. So like this wasn't something that was like so far-fetched or off the table to reach.
Right.
It was
It was
doable.
like at one point doable. And it just didn't work out. So like that's when you're admitting defeat, that's what I think about is like how you almost like you got really close and then it kind of got tough and then you're done. It's so
Right, like you know that's it. After
and
that.
you know it's it. So, but again, I go back.
It can end so fast.
Yeah, it's so fast. But again, I go back to the joy point because to Nick's point, like I knew it was the right decision. It's what I wanted to do. I was ready to do it. But I'll remember that day. You know, when I walked in, and again, this is a guy who, you know, gave me some of the hardest like mornings of my life. Weekend, oh my God, when he would call your phone, dude, you'd be fucking shaking in your pants. You'd be like, what did I do wrong? I missed an assignment. I'm about to have to run around campus for like 10 fucking days.
I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah, screaming at the team. We're underperforming as a team, so he's super pissed off as like a head coach, and then he's got all these other things going on. I walked into his office with a cast on, and he kind of like smirks a little bit. It's like, what's going on? I was like, I gotta go, man. I was like, it's the right time, and I was like, you know, this thing's driving me crazy, and I've been thinking about this for some time. And he's like, it's all right, man. He was the most like, it was probably the quickest, most like loving conversation I had with him. He didn't care one bit. He like legit didn't care.
You probably spent so long thinking how like either disappointed or upset he was going to be about this.
Oh,
and then he walked. He's like, "All good, brother."
I spun my wheels forever. I'm like, he's going to shoot me in the office. He's going to, like, you know, he's going to reach over the table and wring my neck.
You probably had a whole speech planned out, like you know those old TVs. Like we were inside of it, and you know.
No, and he's like Chucky, man. He goes, I know. Like it was almost like an I know, like
right.
He's like, it's all good, dude. He's like, hey, thank you for being here for 2 years. And then he started to thank me for like things that I didn't really notice. He's like, you know, it was small shit. It was like, hey, when we go to weights, like you were funny at weights at 5 a.m. You know what that does for like Chris Janowski was like our stud pitcher. He's like, when you show up and you're yourself, you might not know what it does in that moment for like someone who's like a little bit too intense or like they're need a reprieve or whatever it might be. And he's like, he was super nice. He was just like, thanks for being part of this for 2 years. And like, he's like, I just loved having you in the dugout and stuff like this. It was just super clean and like really appreciative. And it was a great example to me of what, like a high anxiety situation in your head, you can like really build this thing up, man. You built this gigantic snowman, and at the end of it, it's all melted and it's done, and it's totally fine. And he gave me a good propellant too, I would say, to like go start this new chapter. Like I was like, all right, that part of my life ended really nice. It's packaged, it's done, it's good. Let's go do this next thing. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
And so probably more of his teaching. I could shout him out all day long, but like he was always just cognizant of like, what did the moment require and how could he make it something that was like memorable or sustainable for that person moving forward. And I think he was just like off the charts when it came to that shit. Really.
That's awesome, man. That's a lot of wisdom. It takes a lot of wisdom to do that.
Yeah. I would have been the same way, man. I would have been all nervous about it. Like thinking that, he's going to start yelling at me or, oh, you fucking idiot, you broke your hand.
Right.
You put your, but dude, man, like, it's funny. You telling these stories, like, we all went through such a similar thing. Like, we chose the military, you chose playing ball, like, but dude, like, that story of your buddy driving you to the hospital with your hand. I mean, I've seen old Nick here crack a couple guys in the teeth, and then they're having breakfast the next morning. Like it was that brotherhood. The fights would break out, and but it would be like, oh shit, like, did I do that? Like, I better drive you to the hospital, kind of thing. Yeah. I never said that because I was normally on the receiving end of it. But
that goes all back to the accountability thing we kind of started off with too. It's like after the day's all said and done, and typically after the vodka wears off, it's like, all right, I think everybody was a little in the wrong. Let's just move forward. I mean, we have so many good memories together. Yeah, totally. One fight's not going to change that.
Totally. Yeah, you go through too much. It's not worth it. And you resettle your emotions, kind of take a back seat, and you're like, you know what? What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, then the next conversation's over a couple beers, and you guys are laughing, asking who got the best jab into all the other boys.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
I think the only crossover we have with baseball goes back to what I just said. There's a little scuffle. Nick punched a guy in the mouth, and there was a chipped. If I recall correctly, there was a chipped tooth situation, and we had to tell. So we had a platoon sergeants where that was like our boss, or you could think of it as like the coach.
And real quick, to keep that story straight, in that occurrence, I was the one that got my ass beat. Just for the record.
It what?
I woke up in the hospital.
No, well, that was a different time. But I'm talking about.
Yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
And he's going to be on the show eventually, so we won't.
We'll square it up. We'll get the truth.
Yeah. We won't. He won't care if we mention him. But it was Casey when I think you punched him. He fell on the cement, chipped his tooth.
Yeah, in the barracks.
And then we had to tell our platoon sergeant, so basically like our boss or like our manager in a way, like we had to tell him in the morning, or I think Casey told him Monday morning that he was trying to catch a fly ball. and he took it to the teeth. Like we said we were out playing baseball. It was like, but dude, it's the same thing. You get these 18, 19-year-old guys, whether it's a sports team, whether it's the Marine Corps, whether it's, a couple brothers at home, like they're going to fight. And I mean that brothers is in siblings. I don't mean it in a racial sense. Like two siblings at home could fight. And, a tooth gets chipped, and you tell mama it was a baseball or something. We had to tell our platoon sergeant it was a baseball event. He didn't believe us, but
he had no evidence to the contrary either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do
But,
you guys mind
if you
if I?
guys want to do another
Yeah, I
call,
would love.
fellas, if
Yeah.
you're
I'm gonna
piss again. If you're having a little trouble out there, I've been known to have it. I'm not judging.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, dude. So
yeah, so Mizzou.
This
So
episode brought to you by lobotomies. Go get you one.
yeah.
this episode is brought to you by Mr. Hot Dog. I used to know a guy that would beat the shit out of Mr. Hot Dog's son on the school bus. Actually, he went out of business very quick. 6 months to a year is all he had. So we can't use that sponsor, but maybe if he starts another endeavor, we can get him in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
well, yeah. So you have that talk with your coach, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, where you're very, very anxious, very nervous. Like I had to tell my grandmother that I'm having 2 children out of wedlock. It was a little nerve wracking, but then it ends up going much better than expected, which would happen with your coach. So you kind of get the green light or the stamp of approval in a way that, like, hey, you're good to move on, man. Like, thank you for what you did here.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so what? So you did 2 years at St. Joseph's, and then was it? So you're going into your 3rd year of college. Is that when you transferred?
Yeah, my junior year. So I again I had that list of schools academically. What am I going to go to? Pick Mizzou. Turns out to be probably the best decision I made, in that period of my life. So I went down there and I spent most of my time at like the rec facility, like playing basketball and stuff. So I'm playing one game. I get put on a team with my buddy Dylan, my buddy Chase, and we win the game, win the next game, win the third game, win the fourth game, win the fifth game.
It's like
And you
are these
showed up at like 3:30. Yeah, it's like pick up
games,
at the rec,
or is it a rec league kind of thing?
Yeah, no, pick up at the rec, like just like hanging out and shit. So I meet these guys. It's like a Thursday, and you win a bunch of games. You're like talking shit together. You're like doing all this stuff, and then right around the 5th game, Dylan's like, we're starting to shoot the shit and like, talk about shoes and stuff. And I was wearing some like KD4s. Shout out Kevin Durant. But he's like, oh yeah, I like those. I was like, oh yeah. He was wearing Jordan 13s at the time. I remember what they looked like. They were like the all white with the red. I was like, yeah, I fuck with Jordans, but I can't play in them. And you're like having this banter, right? So,
I never had much that talk. I was no good.
And I was a better hooper, right? So I played baseball in college, but I was a better hooper. So at Mizzou, it was kind of like this, the student body appreciated, I think, like good hoops, if you will. Yeah. So I got super lucky, won a bunch of games with these guys on like a Thursday. We end up losing, whatever, after like 5 or 6 games. And my buddy Dylan at that time, he was at PyCap, and he was like, hey man, you want to come to the bar tonight? We're going to go to like Harpo's, which is like the main bar downtown. And he's like, we're going to kick it today. He's like, come through. I was like, dude, I'm like 18, or at this point I'm 20. I'm not 21. I have a fake ID. That's like awful. My address was a burnt down house in Ohio. So like if you actually like Googled it or like did any research, like you'd know that it like wasn't a real fucking location.
Yeah.
The family. So I had the shitty fake with my face on it like this. He's like, yeah, dude, come through Harpo's. He's 21. I came through that night. I showed up in the line. The bouncer looks at my ID for like 2 seconds. He goes, this is the fakest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Get out of the line. You're wasting my time. Dylan comes over with like $20. gives the guy 20. I get to go in.
Little bribe.
Yeah, I got little broed. Um, but I was a hooper, and that meant a lot in that like Mizzou culture.
Yeah.
So I end up like being good friends with him. I get sworn into PICAT, um, which obviously I didn't have to go through like you know, all the rough parts of like joining a fraternity, but
Hazing and whatnot. They didn't do any of
no
that to you?
hazing, no any of that bullshit. Like I was a junior, dude. I was like,
Yeah.
I was old. I was younger, but I was older.
Right.
And then Dill had pull, gave the bouncer 20. I went into Harpo's that night, made friends with the bartender. Um, Within like 2 weeks, I was playing on their Greek league team. I think he was just looking for a small forward.
Yeah.
Um, and then
It's
played it
true.
out with them. We win that Greek championship. We like do it again the next year. And like, those are just buddies for life. So, I had a really good experience at Mizzou of just like, finding people through basketball and, people were looking out for me, which was super nice. So, I had a nice experience there. And then,
That's a good thing. Because I
yeah, it
imagine
was great.
you
It was
switch
great.
schools like halfway through. They've already had a couple years where they're fighting their roommates and they're making friends and things like that. But you have to come in as this new guy. Uh, that's good that you were able to find a way to just melt right into it.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, you come in older and like obviously there's like 45,000 people there. And it's hard to make a way, right? It's like what are you going to do to like make an imprint and like fit in and feel comfortable and stuff like that. So they were huge and I relied on basketball like so much just to get me where I needed to go.
Mm.
And so they brought me out to Harpo's that night and I just like never left. So like from that point on, 2 years full of just like we're playing basketball in the driveway. We got keg parties. We got date parties with PyCap that I get to go to just because I'm like sworn in. You get, I started to play club basketball, which was super sick. So like I got to practice with like the men's team, the women's team, travel a little bit around the SEC and like the Midwest. Um, I just got this like life that was like super fun, It was like still athletic centric, but like I was getting my shit done from a academic
Class.
standpoint. A lot of that like obviously shout out like my previous coach and like environment, but yeah, I got to like play, I
Yeah.
got to play for like 2 years and it was super fun. So um I did get crushed in school every now and again, but for the most part, Mizzou is just the best pick I could have ever imagined. And I had great people looking out for me. Again, I got to shout out those guys because when you're showing up and you have no like roots or connection to a college, and all of a sudden you're a junior, it's a super awkward point to like join. But they were really kind. They opened the door. They let me meet all their friends. And then like Dave knows Liddy City, dude. Liddy City is like one of the guys I met from. He's an Apex guy, by the
Yeah.
way, Chip.
Yeah, I've seen him in the party a couple times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a fucking animal. But like he, quintessential, met him through the frat and like has just become one of my best friends in life. So like it just goes to show you that like no matter where you're at in life, I feel like you're gonna meet people that do the right thing. And like if you put yourself out there, if you're kind to people, if you're nice, shit's gonna work out. So that was a very like transformative, good 2 years for me. I was super independent at that point. So I was really good academically. I was working on like my internships and like all that shit. So I felt very much in control. I was doing the right things. I was making the right decisions. and I was just like open to participate, right? So like I got all these opportunities, but I was like really just there, ready to like take whatever was given to me.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome, man.
That was good.
So once that,
Dude, I get like I guess like envious in a way, you know, because like we talked about before, like we chose a different path, and it came with all its you know share. Like we had great memories that you know I wouldn't trade for the world. But I was always so curious about college, and like I would go home. I'd go home from the military, maybe have a couple weeks off, and you know, like I said, I'd visit some of our buddies at school. And I always had that thought. I was like, man, they're fucking, they have the life. Like, it seemed like so much fun, at all times. And you know, we had, like I said, we had plenty of fun, but it was also, uh,
there's
a
rare
lot of
freedom.
suffering.
Yeah, and rare
Yeah.
freedom. The freedom was very limited.
Right. And you know, it's something, there's trade-offs in life for sure. What path you choose. Like I said, I wouldn't like if I could go back, you know, I would probably still do the same thing I did. Go talk to a recruiter and join. But like there's always that part of me that was like, man, I would look at, you know, Jim and all the guys, you know, everyone in school. Like my buddy Brandon was up in Madison and you know, had this apartment. The whole apartment complex was filled with college kids that just wanted to drink and blow their parents' money. And it was just like I was like, dude, this it's a different world. And you know, part of me wishes I got to experience it. You know, like hearing you talk about heading to Mizzou at you know, you're 20 years old, like such a fucking exciting time. But yeah, you know, now I just have to live through your stories and other people's stories of what these big schools were like, as a young
Yeah,
man.
it was great, but it was super intimidating, right? So like you still like, yeah, I solved the problem of like my friendship right away, but like you still have to make some sort of identity, and it's such a big school. Um,
Yeah.
that can be difficult, even when it comes to like girls. Um, academically, you know, you still have to be super disciplined.
Yeah.
Like there's this huge distraction of just pure unadulterated fun. Like, dude,
Oh yeah.
you could leave every single night and have the time of your life. But like you have to balance it. And that was a hard thing for me to do. And I'm super fortunate that I had the time at St. Joe's, because if I didn't have that counterweight,
All
I
right.
would not have performed the right way. And so if
Yeah.
we take this all back, like if I'm coming out of high school and I go to Mizzou, I'm a
Right.
failure for sure. Like
Oh, I
there's
mean,
no doubt in my mind. I mean, I was like lazy. I was late on deadlines and all that shit. You would flunk out. You would fail.
yeah.
You would care about the
And
wrong shit.
especially if you're not playing a sport, you're just
Yep.
there, you know, going to football games on Saturday, and you know, like I could like. There's so many people that probably drop after their first year at a school like that because it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. It is overwhelming, and you get thrown like amazing opportunity your way, right? So you have like,
Yeah.
you know, all of a sudden I'm embedded in this fraternity I have no real affiliation with. I'm just kind of like sworn in so I can like kind of hoop pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
Go to the
and they
party.
give me, yeah, I get to go to like the day parties and like do all the shit. But like when it really comes down to it, I had to keep some sort of anchor in my life. Otherwise it would have been a little crazy. And I was susceptible to that. And I think I've seen that through my 20s. Like I'm super susceptible to like the fun, the exciting things. And the more I pay attention to like the things that matter, that require discipline, the better those fun things go, because
Yeah.
I can like explore them, be in them, enjoy them, but they don't like dominate my life, or they don't like take over. So, yeah, what I've been through is a lesson in balance. I
Mhm.
think I've had, probably more than most people, and I'm self-aware of it. I'm cognizant of it, but a wealth of opportunity. But it all does come back to like, are you disciplined? Are you anchored in? Are you going to make the right decision? So, I'm working on it like anybody else, but
Mhm.
those were 2 great years. I got to play some club basketball, which is fun. It was like a school sanctioned sport, so we got to like they paid for travel, they paid for uniforms. We got to practice with the guys, practice with the girls. We got to like see the SEC. It was super sick. So
That's cool.
good time.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's like all the fun of the sport, but like without the pressure because you're not,
Right.
Yeah.
it's just for at that like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but at that point it's more of like I'm doing this for, as a hobby or like a social aspect. Like it's not, this isn't me trying to make it into the major leagues or anything. Like, if you fuck up one game, it's not like, oh man, who was watching that game? It's like, who cares? Like, we're about to
Right.
go get drunk later. Let's just have fun.
Right. And dude, my buddies, dude, on the way to
Good
games. So
moves
like
with it.
we were driving to Kansas one time, and the school hires a bus and shit. You have like equipment managers and like people traveling with you. I'm like, this is a club sport. Like, what the fuck's going on? And in the back of the bus, dude, we have like guys rolling like a bunch of fucking pre-rolls and like
Oh,
everyone's getting fucked up on the way.
I'd be
And
sweating
then
at those guys.
at that point in time, I was like, dude, I can't hoop if I'm like stoned. I tried it one time. It was
Dude, I
fucking
can't hoop if
awful.
I'm sober. I'd probably.
Yeah. These guys were like fucking hooping when they were like super stoned. So
They're locked in.
Yeah, they got locked in.
yeah, you had this fun. Yeah, they were locked in for sure. But they came from like different situations. Like one cat, one of my buddies, east side of St. Louis, grew up in like the sticks, dude. And he's like, yeah, man, when I'm stoned, I'm happier, so I hoop better. I don't have that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I grew up in the burbs, like things are good, So, but it was fun being around it because it just offered such good perspective to like what you were doing, right? I was there for fun. Some of those guys were there because it kept them on track. Some of those guys were there because it gave them a little bit of structure, like whatever it might be. They were
Mhm.
just in it for the right reasons. And I feel like we were all in there for our own right reasons. But yeah, they're like good buddies I still have today. And I was lucky, like Jordan Clarkson's, he's playing on the Utah Jazz now. He's been
He
there
was
a
in that.
handful of years.
He was playing with you in that league, or
No, he played at Mizzou for the men's team, but him and I got close just through like friends and kind of hooping together. But he's a great cap, and he's one example of somebody who used basketball to like keep him in the fucking game.
Right.
Mhm.
People find these things. I think you have to respect it. Like, if it was a club teammate of mine, or if it's Jordan Clarkson, right? So like this kid's going to the NBA, this kid's using club basketball just to keep his fucking life on track. Like it's all the same. They're all just trying to do something better, and they use an outlet the right way. So
Yeah.
It's having that structure. Like even if you're just playing for fun, like it's still you're preparing for it. You want to do well enough so that the other guys aren't like, get this motherfucker off the team. Like it's
right.
you might not be playing for millions of dollars with a major league contract, but you're playing just to just so your buddy says good job and things like that. Like it
Yeah, it builds that camaraderie, which is huge anywhere you go.
and it adds on to everything. You go to class, your head's a little bit higher because you played a good game last night with your buddies and things like that. Like I've definitely had periods of my life where I wasn't really involved with anything, whether it be, it doesn't have to be like athletics, but just, having some kind of group outside of work, outside of school, that the periods of my life where I wasn't with anybody in that sense were like those are the hardest time. Like when you're just trying to do it by yourself, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
So that I can, even though I'm fucking, I would be the laughing stock of the if I stepped on a basketball court, But I can imagine what it was like because I've been a part of other groups that hold you. They keep you up. They hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's awesome, man. Like that's such a crazy transition that you were kind of pursuing some dreams of maybe being in the major leagues, but then you found your peace and your happiness through just like club team. Like
Yeah.
And people can do that with other things. I remember when I was at school, people would do like ultimate frisbee, like intramural sports, and I always regret not doing that because it was like, yeah, it's like nothing. It's you're playing fucking frisbee like a bunch of idiots, but like it's something to like to be a part of and try to help out your other teammates, and then you see them at school, you just make more friends. It builds on itself.
No, you're exactly right. It gives you like foundations, right, to build off of. And that gave me a good entrance point into a gigantic school, right? It has like 45,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, how the fuck am I going to like find my footing here? I'll just be a number, be forgotten, whatever. And it gave me obviously like that culture, like that basketball culture was super fun, but then it also connected me with like, again, those pie cap guys. So I had like Greek life, and I had like, I could go to like Harpo's or Willie's or like whatever bar it was, probably see somebody I play basketball with, probably be able to fit in, have more fun. And then all of a sudden within 6 months, I felt like I fit in.
Right.
And that was a huge thing, right? Like inclusion is such a good thing for people when they feel included or they feel like they're part of something bigger. It lets their individuality shine a little bit more. And you just feel more confident. You feel like, hey, the product I'm showing up with, which is myself, is like people want to be around it or see it.
Yeah.
Right. So like, then you have more confidence talking to the bartender. Might be a hot blonde who's out of your league, but fuck it, because you have like this backing, right? So like you're gonna make the move, you're gonna make the jump, and it did wonders for me. And it, going from a school of like 2,400 to 45,000, if I didn't have that outlet, like it's not a success point. And my academics actually, they only got better when I got there. In another situation, I don't have that outlet. That's not club basketball. That's not like friends at the rec. I don't think it's the same way. I could have reverted to my laziness or like something like that. So
right,
it's all of it put together that ends up
that belonging.
Yeah,
feels good
to put the story together. Like it's all the pieces. Like you had your parents. In the beginning, not made, had those conversations of what kind of family they wanted to raise, maybe you would have never even played sports. I think about that. How many parents don't even sign their kids up for sports and you would have never found that coach at St. Joseph's. And, it all builds on itself to where it's crazy, man. Like I think we're about an average of 30 on this podcast, but like, so 30 years. And you start to see all these things come together. And I get so excited. People get doom and gloom about like getting older and not being able to do what they used to. But I almost have like an excitement of like, we're realizing all these things at 30. Like what happens when we hop on a podcast when we're 60?
Right.
And look back at what all this dumb shit we've done. Some successes along the way, but mostly we've all just made a bunch of mistakes. And
yeah. My pop was saying that, dude. My mom and my dad are 65, and they're like, "Look at what we built. We have like grandkids. We have you kids, we have all this cool shit. And then
Yeah.
between them two, they're like, we travel when we want, we do all this stuff. Like,
Take some edibles.
he's like, truly, life only gets better. He's like, the hardest years are probably 40, which we should all fucking brace for. But he's like, it's hard when you're 40, and then it only gets better for like 30 straight years. You know,
Mm.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I feel like the good things are ahead, and
Yeah.
it's all about those foundations, right? Right, like kids, family. I don't know, might be it right there.
Yeah.
Kids, family, and how many wins do you have on Warzone this year?
Oh my god, I can't wait to get my ass kicked. I'm looking at my Xbox, my light's on. It's still downloading, but I can't wait to get muffled by some
Yeah, dude, I don't know.
some pros.
I've drank enough coffee this morning. I might fucking give the game a download, and we might be playing here soon.
That was gonna be my one pitch for today. But yeah,
But so I don't
no,
know.
but I Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to think here where it's always what happens. Like we don't anticipate, all this stuff happening in the podcast. And we haven't even got into like your adult life, your career,
Yeah.
and things like that. So I'm wondering, and Chip was mentioning, what'd you say? Going to the pumpkin patch or something?
No,
go
he
to
said
the
he's gonna put a
city.
pumpkin in his ass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I already got one in there. The
I need to
warm
get
up.
headphones. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean maybe.
But I don't know. I mean, I've got nothing. I've got nothing but time. But if everyone needs to take a break, I mean, we're almost at 3 hours. If we want to pause here, it could be a good moment to where, next time we have you on, Chuck, we'll dive into, dude, I have so many questions about when you worked at Facebook and Google, and that, like, it's.
Well, I almost think
Do-
what we should do is
Do we
if
wait
you-
for part 2?
No, that's what I was thinking. If Chuck is available, because it is 3 hours, it might be better to drop this as part 1, and then
Yeah.
like next weekend potentially, if you're available again in the morning or whenever, we film part 2 and drop it as 2 separate. Because
Yeah.
I mean, if this took 3 hours and we haven't even gotten to the adult life,
Episode 4 and episode 5.
Yeah, but probably so much of it is boring though, but whatever.
But you thought
Not
that
at
about
all.
this too. We just started getting into it. That's how these things
No,
go,
dude.
man. We just start talking, and
It's been
it's been a great conversation.
This will
Good. I'm
be fully unedited, uncut. We'll cut out the little.
No, I'd love to. I would love to do it. I think my career has been
Dude, it's so
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the reason we invited you on was mainly to talk about the jobs that you've had, but we just went through 3 hours talking about, like, we're basically up to 20 years old at this point. So basically adolescence, you could say, because I know I wasn't a fucking adult till I was like 25 years old. I was,
Mhm.
So like I'm good with either. If you guys got to go, we can part 2 next weekend. Sounds great. And it gives
Yeah,
we've got about 5 loyal listeners each week, and they'll be looking forward to it.
I don't have to go at this moment. What I would worry about is it's been such a good conversation up to this point that I wouldn't want to like get into the middle of something and then have to go.
And then have to cut it.
Yeah. Instead, I'd like to just start just how we did, and then let the
Do part 2
conversation
next week.
evolve, and
Even if anyone's busy next week, like even if we got to wait 2 weeks, it's like
there's no rush on it.
This is such a low stakes project. Like, we're doing it for fun, but I'm like, I have a sense of like, I mean, both me and Chip both like we have
Yeah.
like a sense of urgency with it where we're like, it's so fun to do, and breaking down all these things, man. It's like when we would have just kept playing Xbox for the next 40 years, which is great in itself, but we would have never stopped to have these conversations. And I learned a lot about you today, and it was it was
it's
cool.
awesome, man.
It was cool to hear, to think about, because I can understand your neighborhood and Winfield, and what it would have been like, and
Yeah.
it's been fun, dude.
And I
But
think
if you're
Are you kidding me, man? It's been fun for me.
the cool
If-
thing is
if-
too, people are going to take lessons from this conversation, man.
yeah,
You touched on a lot of really important topics too, which we didn't even anticipate getting into, talking about
Yeah.
family and all, the importance of all that and how you had to navigate college. There might be somebody out there that's about to go to college and
Yeah.
takes that information in and turns it into a success.
yeah, like me. I'm trying to do.
Well, I think,
I'm trying to attempt 5 on college soon.
yeah, I know. Fucking get it done, dude.
This will be the success after this conversation for you, Dave.
One day,
No,
my
but I
kid-
think honestly, my like working life in my past like 10 years have probably been the biggest, man. I mean, yeah, me and my wife separated this year. Like, I
know.
started a new job. I've been at Meta, Google. Like, there's so many things I can fucking ramble through. I'll try to do it in a fun way, but yeah, I feel like we scratched the surface because I learned so much this year, even as like it compares to last year, the year before, all that
Right.
shit. So,
dude, that's we'll definitely
all that shit.
we'll do part 2, I think, or not. I know we will. I mean, none of this is going to get cut. Like, people are listening to us just trying to figure it out as we go. And so for those of you listening right now, not only do you need to get your fucking life together, but also you gotta understand, we're gonna try to drop. This will be released part 1, and this will be, I think, our first ever back-to-back interview, like part 1, part 2. Let's do it, because we want to get into that stuff. I've heard here and there some babies crying in the background. Might need to go help out. And I know Chip's got some things going on, but dude, we'll hit another one soon.
Maybe.
And I think if anyone's looking for a little bonus feature, I think me and Chuck might be about to hop on Black Ops 6 for the first game of history. We'll try to throw it on the Patreon. It's going to be a win. So if you guys haven't already, check it out. Patreon.com/Nick and Dave. I think someone told us it doesn't show up anymore. But that's another thing, Chuck. We had some people submit questions, and we were saving the questions for later because both questions we had so far had to do with your career moves.
Oh, nice.
They were both. Well, I think one question involved Facebook. Maybe one question just involved kind of like big tech, but maybe that's another open invitation that people, now they've heard a little bit about you, and you got until next weekend if you want to submit another question. We'll get part 2 if it's next weekend or sometime in the future, but
I would say keep them coming. Whatever you want to know, I'm happy to divulge as long as it doesn't sink my fucking career.
That's off the table.
That's
but yeah, it's been crazy, dude. It's been a fucking crazy ride, man.
We need you to leave. We need you to leave.
And that goes back to like 2019. I started with Meta in 2019.
Oh yeah,
it's a long time. So
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, it's been a run, and obviously our plan is that there's enough evidence in these episodes. You do get fired from your current job, maybe you have nowhere else to turn, and you reach out to Nick and Dave Unplugged to seek employment, and we'll take you on, brother. We might not be able to offer much in terms of benefits, and there may or may not be a salary, but I think
in terms of money, safety,
insurance,
benefits, insurance,
you stick with us long enough,
general well-being.
Yeah.
Give us a couple decades. We might turn this thing around and start making some money off of this podcast. So, you'd be in good hands if you decide to make the choice.
Love it.
Well, everyone,
I would say, dude, I'd be happy to be back because I feel like there's a lot of unscratched surface to go through, and but you guys are great, man. I appreciate you, and keep doing your thing, man. This was really nice for me because I think no matter who you are, you feel appreciated when somebody asks you to tell your story. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And I think the genesis of this pod is, got some great things going on, but like making people feel heard, feel individual goes a long way. And I appreciate you guys for that. Thanks for letting me ramble on some bullshit topics, but I'd love to be back for round 2. But
thank you, man. We appreciate
it's a really good thing for people.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on and talking with us, man. It's cool for me, and I'm sure cool for Dave too to hear all those things and get to know you a little bit better, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening and watching on YouTube, like and subscribe if you want. It's free. It helps us kind of reach out to maybe more people, get this thing rolling. If you're on Spotify, a bunch of people have been listening. Drop a damn review, good or bad. Let us know.
5 stars only, or you're going to get blocked.
We'll block your But thanks, everybody, for listening to the conversation today. And thank you, boys, too.